Cervantes, Yamas, Cloud, Nedia, Eshremia, Cooks. Doing a great job as they approach 3K. About 8:25. 2,000 meters to go.
Right, I think.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Chris.
Yeah, just stick it here.
Okay.
I can hear myself, but I can't hear Kyle.
That looks like 9 flat on the dot.
Get it?
Kyle, did you
Yeah.
twist one of these knobs?
So whenever they holler at you.
What?
No, thank you for everything that you do.
Chris, can you hear me?
Wait, hold
You're
on.
number one.
Chris, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, so the spare is the one.
Yeah.
That was the issue. Okay, they just won't be able to
Hear you.
Oh, everything. Okay.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah, they can hear. As long as can they be heard? This is on the spare. Can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me? Okay on the spare. Okay, great.
Is the YouTube link running? Is the same previous link? Okay. Let me test that.
Testing, testing, testing.
No, see the link that there's a link that only goes.
Oh, they can hear us. Oh, that's so funny. Hey, everyone.
Wait, people can hear us?
Yeah, everyone's been able to hear us. That's so great.
Hey,
Emma, are you there?
can you hear me?
Sweet.
Cervantes up front with 1,200 meters to go.
Yeah, we sound good.
Yeah.
This is behind the scenes stuff for everyone in the live chat that's hanging out waiting.
About 10:40.
Perfect.
1,200 meters remaining.
Yes.
Yep.
In the chat, do you guys hear us well? Do you guys like what you hear? Do you want to hear something different? How do you feel?
Okay, so perfect. There is a new link that we have to tweet out, Kyle. Perfect. Welcome back, YouTubers, to the Trials of Miles Texas Qualifier here in Austin, Texas. I'm Chris Chavez. I am the host of the CITIUS Mag podcast, and I'm rejoined by the one and only Kyle Merber. Kyle, we had a heck of a first night. So much fun. The drone is okay. That's what people's main concern was.
Everyone was very worried about the drone after the unfortunate incident with the field goal post last night, but
we're here. We made it. We made it back for another night. Another night of really fast races. Tonight, the goal is to get some Tokyo qualifiers, but maybe along the way, get some Olympic trials qualifiers.
Really what it's about is making memories.
Yes.
And
friends along the way.
And last night was a ton of fun, and I was buzzing after that evening of races, and the fact that we get to do it again, we get to run it back one more time. Does it get any better than this in track and field?
So we got fewer races here today. Like a couple of there's not going to be as many sections, but the quality is going to definitely go up. We're going to bring even more quality to our broadcast. We really appreciate all the nice things that some people have said to us on Twitter and elsewhere on the internet. It was nice.
Yeah, well, you know, we're figuring things out, and I feel like over the course of last night we figured things out more and more. We figured out how to use our headsets properly and to know which buttons to press along the way.
There's a cough button, which I think it's like the weirdest thing to have in the middle of a pandemic. No one wants to cough.
Yeah, no, do not hit that button. But yeah, no, I mean, the races tonight are incredible. Like, the fields are so stacked. Every single race has an opportunity to go after that Tokyo qualifying mark.
Not even just the Tokyo qualifying marks. Let's talk. We'll probably pull up some Texas soil records. We'll come up with world-leading times. You know, some of these world-leading times right now are set all the way out in Australia and New Zealand, and so let's bring some back to the States.
Yeah, but you know what? I think the theme that we touched on last night that we want to continue to touch on more tonight is it's about beating those in the race. And it's about 72 degrees right now here in Austin, Texas, at the undisclosed location that no one will ever be able to tell, despite the drone shot of showing exactly where we are. But I think that the conditions are pretty good. It's, you know, there's no rain in the forecast. It's a little windy, but it seems like it's starting to calm down. It's definitely a little bit sticky. But I think in the early part of the program, especially in those 800s and 1500s, we can definitely work with this.
Yeah. So again, we'll get some of the, you're going to see a lot of the faces tonight competing at the 2021 U.S. Olympic Trials, and the 2021 U.S. Olympic Trials will be held out in Tracktown, USA, Eugene, Oregon. When was the first time? What's your first ever memory of competing out in Hayward Field?
Yeah, it was the 2010 NCAA Championships. I am known to suffer from allergies a little bit, and on the morning of the final, I walked downstairs to breakfast. My eyes were puffed over. It looked like I had double pink eye or something. My coaches were quite concerned because the allergy season had already finished in New York, but it was in full spring mode out in Eugene, Oregon, and I got swept by all the ducks.
So we're going to hope to see a lot of these people make their way out to Tracktown, USA. So for a little bit more on Tracktown, they've put together a nice little package because they sponsored some of the races last night. And so here's a look at what to expect at a good old Tracktown, USA.
Here in Eugene, Oregon, Tracktown isn't just what we do. It's who we are. It's our home and our heart. It's our history and our inspiration. And we are just getting warmed up.
I am super excited to get my first glimpse of that new Hayward Field.
That is a beautiful stadium.
And you know, the real hope is that we can get some fans there as well. So things are hopefully going to improve tonight. Everyone who's competing has had to submit COVID tests ahead of time, negative. They have at least, I think, one person with them, and so everyone has tested negative. You and I have been attached at the hip, like, so I feel comfortable being this close to you.
We have our negative tests as well,
have our
very
negative
importantly.
Yeah. So I'm excited. So should we run through some of the races? Well, first off, the first two races are going to be 1500s, and one of the races, these are the only two races that have prize money on the line. This came about in the last 24 hours. The Beer Mile guys, scrambled and to put together a nice little package. So each winner of the men's and the women's section will be taking home $750, which I don't know if they all know. So it might be a little surprise for the winner afterwards when they go and see Emma on the sidelines.
Yeah, no, it's a nice little prize purse for us. And, I think it just continues that theme that we had spoken about a ton last night. It's amazing the grassroots effort, people stepping up to support track and field. And for those who are sitting in the chat as we're sitting around waiting, we have about 23 minutes until that first 1,500. You're allowed to share the link.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Like
share the link.
They won't
There's
get in trouble.
a little bit of a confusion because the original link that we tweeted out, there was a couple technical difficulties, but if you're here, you found it, now take that link and share it with another person. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see how many eyeballs we get on this tonight. And we said it last night, a lot of the reason why we're doing this for free is because, years ago, for me, I just stumbled upon a live stream link and was hooked by the performances and the excitement from the athletes. And so I want to see if maybe we can recapture a little bit of that magic here tonight.
To those listening at home, you might be the next Chris Chavez. How incredible would that be?
That'd be awful for them.
Well, it seems like we already have 2,500 people watching at home, so it seems like
just watching us talk.
Track fans are pretty smart. They can figure out how to refresh a link and go to the CITIUS mag.
Well, there's also I feel like as a track fan, when it comes to navigating, finding live streams, you end up on some really sketchy websites sometime where you have to close 20 pop-ups, and you're like, I don't know if my computer's going to make it through the next, just to see a 1,500 out in the middle of nowhere Europe.
Yeah, you get some viruses trying to
but
watch
you
some track
do it
meets
for
out.
the love of the sport.
And, that's something that I think is really unique about our sport is the eyeballs who are watching these races are fully attentive. Mm-hmm. And people are diehards, and that's the beautiful thing about our sport. It's a niche sport, and we're always talking about how can you help popularize it? How can we make it grow? And for us, I think speaking to our fans directly is huge. We don't have to dumb things down too much, and that's one of the reasons why doing this is so much fun for us in the booth, because we're track nerds, and that's why hopefully we can bring that experience to those at home who are watching, that passion that we really, really enjoy and are invested in the athlete's performance.
It's okay to be nerds with us tonight.
Yeah, no, and the chat going is always a very fun way to participate. And
yeah, we're going to ask you to cheer for your favorite runners in the chat. We might ask you, hey, if you've got some DJ recommendations, let us know. The DJ is literally right next to me, so I can just relay over. If you want to hear Shallow from A Star Is Born, let's get it going in the middle of one of the races.
You want to hear Shallow.
I do want to hear Shallow.
So, Chris, is there any race in particular that you want to start chatting about that we're super excited about? Or
well, I feel like we might have a couple special guests here in the booth, and it's the Beer Mile guys to preview a little bit of what is was on tap for the men's 1,500. So we've got a little bit of a sizzle reel that these guys have put together, and I think the guys are that the viewers are going to enjoy it. So check it out.
Justin Knight, aka Canada's Sweetheart, from Syracuse University, representing Reebok.
Craig Ingalls, University of Mississippi, aka Harvard of the South. Yeet.
This is Johnny the Jet Gregoric, tight end, Seekonk High School.
Sam Prakel, Adidas, the University of Oregon, and Versailles, Ohio.
Robbie Andrews, Adidas, Central Jersey is real.
G'day, my name's Charlie Hunter and I run for the University of Oregon.
Craig Nowak, fresh off the pirate ship.
You're watching the men's Olympic 1500 meter
on the CITIUS Mag YouTube channel.
Sponsored by our boys at the Beer Mile Podcast.
Beer Mile Podcast.
Beer Mile Podcast.
Presented by the Beer Mile Podcast.
Yeah. Can't wait.
So, in just a couple seconds here, I'm going to be joined by the two Beer Mile Podcast guys, Adam and Chris Robertson. I happen to have Chris on the CITIUS Mag Podcast a couple months back. And if you haven't checked out their YouTube channel, there's a lot of really funny stuff on there. Chris, in particular, ran I forget what it was. It was like he split 5:09 for both miles of the 2 miles. So here they are, the Beer Mile Podcast guys. What is up with this outfit? Break this down for us.
I mean, you know, you go into Walmart, you might stumble into might stumble into some overalls or a pair, and you get your fancy trimmer Chris in the hotel room, maybe after a beer, and he cuts you up into some short shorts.
Yeah, we wanted to look the part. We're in Texas. We want to look the part. So when we go to the next track meet, we'll probably fit into the time of year, the scenery, just doing our part to bring a little excitement onto the infield out there.
So you guys, what made you guys want to get involved with sort of, with first off, creating the podcast, taking over what Beer Mile Media was beforehand? You guys ended up buying it a little while back, and now all of a sudden, like, you guys are behind one of the biggest races of this meet.
I don't know. Well, we both love the sport. We've done a few beer miles in our life, but I think for us, it's really, I think track and field could bring a lot more entertainment side of things. Other sports, you can bet on other sports, all these things. We want to kind of bring that piece of it, as well as be able to tell the athlete stories, give a little story behind the athletes. That'll get people more excited in the event overall. So that's really what we're here to do.
Definitely.
Focus less on the running and more on the athletes themselves, and give back to the sport a little bit. We've run our whole lives, and so it's only fair that we pay back to the sport that has given us a lot in our lives.
Yeah, quite literally put our money where our mouths are.
Exactly.
So of all the different, the people should definitely go and check out the Beer Mile podcast that you guys have put out. Of the episodes that you guys have done, what conversation so far has stood out to you the most? I know the one that has made the most headlines.
I don't know. I would say like the most recent one as of today with Kara Goucher, Chris McClung, and Shanna Burnett. I thought it was a great perspective just on the sport as a whole. I'm kind of a jaded personality as far as it comes for doping, etc. So I just thought, especially Chris had a really good perspective on the sport and made me definitely less jaded.
For sure. I mean, personally, I'm just gonna say I'm a big fan of Kieran Leonard. Love house music, love his DJing, I love that other side of the personality that he brings to the sport. I mean, most people have seen the Craig and Eric episodes of ours, and so obviously that was a blast too. But really, all of our guests, even just spending an hour with the guests, you get to know them so much better. And at that point, it's like I'm behind all of them. Like I'm out here rooting for them because it's enough. Once you know their story, then you just want to back them up that much more.
So what can people expect, what content is going to come out of this sort of trip? You guys came out here, sponsored one of the races, you guys have a media credential, so you're out there on the infield. What's going on right now?
Definitely some behind the scenes, not as much shenanigans, as our past couple trips, but for sure a few interviews, maybe some post-race shenanigans. We'll see.
Yeah, trying to get some footage from the infield too. A little different perspective. Like obviously, you guys are crushing your production team's crushing the race footage, but getting some of that infield footage, getting some of the athletes warming up, athlete interviews, all that stuff as well. So we'll be putting out some videos over the next few weeks, and then hopefully long term as well on other meets and podcasts as well.
So in order for the prize money that you guys put together for both the 1500s, you guys teamed up with the Beer Mile World Classic, right? So
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about like what to expect from that sort of meet that's later on in the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So a huge shout out Beer Mile World Classic. It's the official Beer Mile World Championship every year for international competition between countries. John Markle, Nick McFalls, thank you guys. Them along with us put up prize money for those 1,500 races. Again, athletes, running isn't necessarily the most lucrative sport out there. We want to promote athletes to be at their best and help them along. And similar with Beer Mile World Classic, they're in the exact same boat, want to promote the sport. And then this year, looking to be October for the Beer Mile World Championship 2021, and maybe we'll kind of bridge that gap a little bit between beer milers, like myself, and then some of these pro runners as well that maybe could throw down a beer mile themselves.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, we're wishing you guys all the best of luck and all the work that you guys are doing, and I'm looking forward to seeing what vlog and all that kind of stuff comes out of this trip.
Heck yeah. Thanks for having us at the meet. This is a blast. You guys, big shout out to CITIUS Mag and Trials of Miles for putting on this production.
Sweet, awesome guys. Well, let's get Kyle back in here. But yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Thanks so much.
So it looks like an EMT is attending to an athlete on the field. We'll keep you guys updated on their status. That might cause a little bit of a delay, but for now we'll show you the track that we're at from above. And yeah, so Kyle,
I just got back. What did I miss?
you just missed. You missed the.
And that was not a bathroom break for those playing the drinking game at home. I just want that to be clear.
That's right. Well, that was the other thing too, is that I got a message after for yesterday's broadcast saying that you didn't wash your hands or something like that because you came back way too quick.
I have no idea what you're talking about. So, Chris, something that I was thinking about was, what about if tonight you do the play-by-play and I do the guy who's trying to break 5 minutes in the mile for the first time?
All right. Well, you got me after that one. All right, so let's get back to the action. I'm not gonna acknowledge that roast.
Yeah.
So the women's 1500 will be the first race of the evening. Unfortunately, Colleen Quigley had to scratch from this race. She put in a really solid training block at altitude, finished, I believe it was second or third in the 3K at the Prickly Pear Invitational. So the fitness is there. Any sort of little tweak or something like that, you just don't want to take a big risk on, especially when the stakes are as high during an Olympic year.
Yeah, and that's something that we can speak about a little bit, because when the fields first started being put together a couple months ago, it was a very, very long list. And I told you then, like, these are not going to be the races that you think they're going to be. We're going to have people show up the week of, decide that they heard about this race and they want to jump in, and we're going to have other people who have things pop up, because in the Olympic year, first off, you have COVID, so you're chasing every opportunity that you can. But then also, you want to be safe and make sure that ultimately you get to the Olympic trials in one piece and are able to compete for your chance to make the Olympic team. And for some athletes who already have the qualifying times, it's just not worth the risk to come out here. And that's a difficult aspect of the sport as meet promoters at times, because you want the fans at home to engage with what they are going to see, and you want to have that time to build those storylines. But the truth of it is that right now the goal is, in Tokyo, we want medals. And if an athlete like Colleen has to do that, and she's not the only one, there's many, we're okay with that, because we believe in their long-term health, and we think that that is going to pay dividends long-term by being a little bit safe right now.
Are you a little bit disappointed we don't get to see any sort of little hint as to like who her next sponsor might be, or like what, you know, creative mix might be happening and that kind of stuff? Because Colleen is one of the, arguably, I guess I would say, one of the most marketable athletes in USA track and field.
Yeah, it's always a fun aspect of the sport is, you know, who are the athletes going to be sponsored by? Are you rooting for athletes because of their sponsor? I know personally that I'm a huge fan, and we'll talk about it more tonight, of new companies coming in and supporting the sport and the athletes. And for me, I think for fans at home, the best way to kind of see more of that is to speak with your wallet, support the companies that are supporting the sport. So that, you know, obviously we have a number of sponsors tonight that hopefully people can recognize that they're putting their money to hopefully connect with the fans and are supporting the athletes. But also, I think that the other thing to do is just to talk about the fact, and when you make a purchase, if you really, really like, you know, Evan Jager, and you bought a pair of shoes that you saw on his Instagram, it's not that bad to throw a little tweet out to Nike and let them know, hey, I saw Evan got this, and so I bought them.
Even though it might get lost in the shuffle, who knows who might see it. So Colleen won't be here, so I think we talked about this on our preview podcast that we published 2 or 3 days ago now. I've lost track of time, but I think the one to watch in this one is Gabriella DeBoer-Stafford.
Yeah, well,
she's got the fastest personal best of the whole entire field, 3:56.
Yeah,
from the World Championships, 3:56, which didn't get you a medal at Worlds. That's just where we are in the sport. I mean, Shelby Houlihan, 3:54 high. No medal.
Yeah, both would probably get you some scholarships to some very good D1 men's programs. But, you know, the game has been raised, and the races are fast. And the American distance running contingency is responding. And I guess Gabriella is Canadian. She is as well. But she looked amazing in that 3K. She looked so strong. Obviously, the adjustment to Schumacher's training is going very well.
Yeah, and, you know, I think there's going to be plenty of other contenders. It's not just going to be that she's going to run away with the pacer. Corey McGee had a really strong 2020. People overlook the fact that the fun fact that I was able to come up with just looking at some of the stats is she was the fastest women's outdoor miler of 2020 because of the race that they ran out in Indiana.
Yeah, no, great race, and just a very creative way to make opportunities when there weren't any. Another athlete that I'm keeping close eyes on is Sinclair Johnson. Yeah. She, if I'm correct on this, has not lost a race since joining Bowerman.
2 for 2 or 3 for 3, I believe. Yeah.
And she is someone who just missed out on making that team to Doha, but is grown a ton in the last couple of years, and she looked great in that 800 that we saw. And I know for me personally, I love staying up late and watching those Bowerman time trials, but it's really fun when you get to put them on the track with other athletes and see what it's all worth.
Competing again. So we just heard from the meet director that there's going to be a 5-minute delay. You can probably hear it right now if it catches up on the mic. The first race will be now at 7:05. There was a little bit of a medical emergency on the track, but it has gotten sorted out. Yeah. All right, men's 1500. Again, maybe not what was teased at the very beginning of the month. Again, you called it right when we were assembling sort of like the fields. When we touched base with you, it's like, oh, who should we promote and that kind of stuff. There's a graphic that went out. It had Evan Jager on it, Donovan Brazier, Matthew Centrowitz, and Nick Willis. And the only one of those 4 who's competing here tonight is Nick Willis. But I would say still a very, very strong field.
I mean, I hate to say I told you so.
You did.
But I said to put Johnny on the graphic. And for those at home, I should be very transparent about this. There's going to be a little bit of bias in that men's 1500, I guess. I guess if you could say, if I was hanging off the edge of a cliff and in one hand I had the entire men's field in my left hand and Johnny in my right, I would pull up Johnny and make sure that my best friend is okay.
So can you share, I guess, with the viewers, when did you first meet Johnny? When did this beautiful friendship begin?
Well, so I guess, we went to college together.
Right,
but
people know that.
As some may be familiar, Johnny's father was Olympian himself. Or I guess the first, hopefully the first of the Gregoric Olympians. And so a Long Islander. And so I was familiar with him. And actually at the Manhattan Invitational, my senior year of college, I met a young Johnny Gregoric who was not taking it very seriously. And then ultimately was able to convince him to join me at Columbia a couple years later. And actually on his recruiting trip, he stayed up seemingly all night sleeping on our futon, talking about his girlfriend and how she was the most beautiful girl in the world. And we're like, please, like, high school Johnny, please shut up and go to bed.
Wait, you can't just leave us hanging here. How did that end?
Oh, they got married.
Okay. Beautiful ending to that story. So aside from Johnny, it's not just going to be the Johnny Gregoric show for that race. You've got Justin Knight, who proved that he is in spectacular form once again, like hasn't lost a step at all when it comes to winning. He won the 2-mile at the Ocean Breeze meet. During the race, we'll probably talk a lot about Josh Thompson because, we've said it multiple times on, on podcasts and on Clubhouse when you and I have these open chats with people. It was the fact that you believe that Josh Thompson is one of the best, arguably one of the best American milers, and very, very underrated, or doesn't get the glamour and the attention that he deserves.
Yeah, I guess, first off, I think until he doesn't win the Olympics, Matt Centrowitz is the undisputed best American miler. And, although he's not here tonight, you know that he's going to be there later in the season. He's always there. But Josh has won a U.S. title before, indoors, and has proven himself as a guy who will consistently be at the front of races and have a blistering final 100 meters and be able to win races. And he's run fast, and he's been consistent. And, he's someone that I think just because he's a really nice guy, people don't necessarily pay attention to as much as they should.
Sam Prakel was the top American in the 1500 that was really fast at Ocean Breeze 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, whenever it was. So keep an eye on him. He's been training out in Arizona for a bit. I feel like he's another one of those people who doesn't get the credit that he deserves.
Yeah, you can always count on Sam to one race. I think he might have raced more than anyone else throughout the last year in the pandemic. He was willing to do whatever he could to go from race to race, and you have to admire that. That's a very old school mentality. I know that my old agent, Ray Flynn, always encouraged us to go find races, and he'd tell us stories about getting bussed around, you know, hearing that a local priest somewhere in rural Ireland was willing to put up a couple £100 for him to go break 4 minutes in the mile. And so it's that old school mentality that Prakel brings, and he's consistent.
But the storyline I think that you have sort of really pinpointed when we were previewing these races was Charlie Hunter is in this 1500 field. And for those who maybe haven't seen the result, I don't know, it was really out there. One of the biggest things that people lost their mind about in the track world was 3 Oregon Ducks running under 354 for the mile at the University of Arkansas just a couple weeks ago. Cooper Tier breaking the collegiate record, running 350. And so the third of those Ducks was Charlie Hunter. Came back the next day, ran 147 for the 800.
145.
145. Yeah, that's right. And so really nice, fast times. But what does it mean when you get into a race against some of these pros and you have to compete?
Yeah, I know personally I was shook when I saw those guys run as fast as they did. And he's not joined by his teammates because as an Australian, he is now chasing that 1500 standard. I would imagine he's also obviously considering the 800 at the Olympics. And Australia, we've been talking a lot about the UK versus USA rivalry that we are developing, that we are turning into a storyline.
It should be like the Revolution rematch or something like that.
Well, the Australian group down under are doing amazing.
A third group if it's a triple meet.
Yeah. So you know, that 1500 team is not going to be easy to make, but as you were saying, it's all about seeing what is it worth. Can he beat these guys? And I would say if he goes to win, then you think, wow, imagine what Cooper and Cole are capable of.
So those are the first 2 races of the evening. Then, you know, as we'll quickly run through the rest before we get to the action, which is going to kickstart 5 minutes a little bit later than initially expected because of a slight medical delay. The women's 800, we've got Ajay Wilson headlining, the World Championship medalist, American record holder. She had a very, very low-key 2020 where we didn't see her at any meet. So this will be, I believe, not her season opener, outdoor season opener. She won at Ocean Breeze. So excited to see what she can put together outdoors. We saw her yesterday after doing her pre-meet and seemed pretty excited.
Yeah, she was very relaxed. She asked us what we thought of the track, because we had already gone for a little run, or I did. You, I think, were just
hanging around,
twiddling your thumbs somewhere. But I'd gone for a run, and she asked what I thought of the track.
Your opinion matters. Can we try and clarify? Let's ask the viewers. What is Kyle's new role when it comes to things? Because he's not an athlete. He's
unemployed.
So we need a title for Kyle. I was thinking just the grand ambassador to the sport.
Yeah, it's I think a new United Nations position.
But it's just a lot of people seem to value your opinion. A lot of people are enjoying your commentary. So let's just keep rolling with it. Fake it till you make it, Kyle.
No, I'm negotiating for a percentage of CITIUS, which you're not willing to give me. But no, I am just out here, pumped, excited. It's, I think, probably very confusing the day before the race for everyone to see me out running, you know, in some warm-ups. I was going to announce my comeback, but no, I'm actually quite happy in the booth. It's really nice up here.
So I just had to text the meet director. I can tell that things are really loud for us in here, and I'm sure it's picking up on the chat, so just wanted to get that sorted out. Men's 800, unfortunately, no Bryce Hoppel. He had to scratch after setting his American record in the 1K. But we do have, you know, we know that Donovan Brazier is, you know, the top dog. Hoppel's the number 2. It's wide open for that 3rd spot. And, you know, at the same time, who knows what could happen at the Olympic trials. So
first off, you should note that there is an Olympic medalist, and Clayton Murphy, obviously, going to be in that conversation.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But I think another guy that we're going to see tonight is Isaiah Harris. He's made worlds before and has been a name to watch since his sophomore year at Penn State, and now, you know, a couple-year professional running for Nike. And I think he's a guy that has shown consistency and the ability to run fast in a million different ways.
And we'll get into a little bit of the internet beef between him and Drew Piazza during that race. Men's 5K, another one that we had quite a bit of scratches just because of race scheduling, planning. Somewhat maybe one meet fits better into people's schedules. But still, I'm very curious to see how Ryan Hill does in his first 5K as a member of Hoka NAZ Elite.
Yes, he did run a 3K last a week or two ago in Phoenix, Arizona, but it was a tactical race. He won, though, in 8:02, and so I've heard the whispers from Flagstaff is that he's quite fit and is fitting in very well with the NAZ Elite crew.
Yep. Mason Furlick, another person that you think, this could be a big night for him when it comes to the 5K, and, maybe trying to see how he balances that one versus the steeple as his A event for 2021.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Mason will end up running at the Olympic trials. He's a steeplechaser. He's gotten better and better at the mile. But I think the 5K has a lot of potential for him because he's demonstrated himself as someone who's gotten really strong as the years have piled on. We saw him run a beautiful cross-country race earlier in the season, and he beat Paul Chelimo in it, who is arguably America's best distance runner on any given day. And so...
ooh, really? I like that take.
Not on it. I guess on some days. You have Lopez as well and Paul.
Yeah, that's what I was
if we want to talk about exciting rivalries, that's the one that I'm sure all eyes will be on come the Olympic trials. But I think Mason in that race really showed his chops.
So quickly, we've got 3 minutes to go, and we've got 3 more races to really run through. Women's 5K. This is the big rematch. El Purrier versus Emma Coburn. Coburn's first 5K. El Purrier fresh off of that 2-mile American record. That's the headline on that one.
Let's. I think we have some time later in the night to start doing that, but let's start thinking a little bit about this 1500.
Yeah.
As they line up, it looks like they're starting to get ready, and really quickly, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the field. So in lane now 2 will be Helen Schlaftenhofen.
No lanes, Kyle.
No lanes. All right. Helen Schlaftenhofen, Nikki Hiltz, Gabriella DeBustaford, Corey McGee, Shannon Osika, Jenna Westway, Sarah Vaughn, and Sinclair Johnson.
And the Tokyo target that we're going to set out there is 4:04:20.
And so the pace that we are looking for tonight is 65 flats, and we're going to have those lights on the infield geared towards those times, so we'll have an idea just exactly where they are in regard to that.
So if you're curious about how those lights work, it's provided to us by Lightspeed Pacing. David Hudman is the guy behind him. He's based out in Florida. We have 16 lights around the track set to the time. So some races are going to have multiple lights for multiple pacers, but this should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and our rabbit, Leanne Farber, immediately to the front. She's got a 5-meter lead on the field as they're looking to see who's going to be the one to take it behind her. You have Nikki Hiltz on the inside rail and Shannon Osika behind her. Shannon is one who is never scared to get on the pace and push it. I believe she has a personal best of 4:01, and she's been known to do it the hard way.
Yeah, that 4:01 came back in 2018 out in Poland. She's been on a tear. Was consistently around that 4:06 range for about 3 years, and then had that big breakthrough in late 2019.
So the field comes through 300 meters in 51 seconds. I hope at some point Leanne up front will take a look behind her and just allow them to reattach. Right now, it doesn't seem like Nikki is fully committing to that quick pace. And a lot of that reason is because she has already run fast times before, and she doesn't necessarily need that Olympic trial or that Olympic standard.
And there's just like the little added component that there was that scheduling change in the last 2 days where that USATF announced, where now you can't do the 15 5K double. So hey, if less women have the standard, then it makes things a little easier for her.
Yeah, and I think that the 1500 is an event that is already extremely competitive, and when you consider some of those women like Ellie and Shelby who are capable of both doing the 1500 and 5K extremely well, competitive on both obviously the domestic level but also internationally, that schedule change does potentially throw a wrench into things.
Now, I do want to bring a little bit of attention to Sarah Vaughn, who's leading that chase pack, because she just partnered partnered with a brand new brand. It's called And Mother. It was co-founded by Alicia Montano. The brand strives to break barriers that limit a woman's choice to pursue and thrive in both career and motherhood. And so she's someone who's been in the game for a while. It's good to see her getting some big-time support.
And so they came through 700 meters in 2:02. Sarah has stepped up, and Sarah is just a real feel-good story, a mother, a realtor. She has just made a career outside of running, but still somehow finds a way to get this done.
Mother of 4.
And Sarah is one who I believe still does need that time, if I am correct. You can maybe check me on that, but I believe her personal best is just outside the Olympic qualifying mark with 4:04.5.
Yep, that is correct.
They're slowly starting to wind it up. They look very, very comfortable. In a small field like this, it's very easy to jostle around and find the position that you want to be in. I'd expect a blistering final 400 meters.
Gabriella Stafford is all the way in the back, and so if she is the one who has, oh, now there it is. If you keep your eye on her, she's about to make her move on the outside. Watch for that kick.
Well, after that 3K, you know she's confident in her strength and will have no problem pushing from far outside. She's probably run more Diamond League races than anyone else in this field, so she's used to going out much, much quicker. And I believe we were about 3:08, 3:09 with a lap to go. So we're going to see a very, very fast finish here as they approach the 1,200 meter mark in about 3:26.
And you see Corey McGee on the outside swinging wide. She's got a 4:03 personal best. She PR'd in the 1,500 4 times in 2020.
It seems right now with the way that the positions are opened up that everyone is going to have the opportunity if they're feeling good as they hit 200 meters go in about 3:41. And Gabriella Stafford is starting to make a big, big push, but hot on her heels is her teammate Sinclair Johnson. Corey McGee is about 2 steps behind as Shannon Osika is coming around on the outside, but it's Gabrielle Stafford up front. Sinclair Johnson is still behind her in lane 1. We're going to look to see her if she can swing into lane 2. But Shannon Osika is making a huge bid from behind. She's not on her screen, but she's coming up, but it's not going to be enough. Gabrielle Stafford looks strong, closes in 4:09.
The tactical race as Bowerman goes 1-2.
She looked fantastic that last 400. We're going to have to find out exactly what the final lap was, but my guess is that it's going to be in that 60-second range. A hell of a negative split.
There's a reason why she's the Canadian record holder in the 1,500 indoors and outdoors, the mile indoors and outdoors, the 5K indoors and outdoors. She's on fire.
That was really exciting just to see the Bowerman crew line up against some of America's top middle distance runners rather than just doing the time trials, which, again, in a time of COVID was very necessary, very exciting to watch. But we're able to really see what it all means, and Gabrielle Stafford shows that she can do more than just time trials. She can still race.
We're getting back, yeah, it's just back to rubbing shoulders and seeing who can get across the finish line first. So we'll run through the full results on the screen.
Something that I want to talk about a little bit is the difference of the 1,500 versus the mile. I know for many that might seem like the same thing, but that 109 meters actually makes a very big difference in terms of pacing, especially in February when you're maybe not quite as sharp, haven't necessarily done as much speed work. But I think for these athletes, that little difference of about a second a lap, you can feel. I mean, I know myself whenever I was in races, and if we're running 57s and we slow down to 59s, I can sense that.
Really?
And you can tell those minor differences. And so for these athletes, the 1,500 versus the mile does make a significant difference.
We touched on it a little bit yesterday, but to bring back the point, what do you think there's something a little bit weird about 2021 where some of these athletes are competing indoors one week, outdoors the next week, and how does that affect sort of like maybe sort of the planning when it comes to approaching one of these races?
Yeah, I think it's relatively easy when many of these athletes have been at training camps, many in Scottsdale, many in Flagstaff. Arizona seems to be a popular destination. And so I think that for them, they've been on the outdoor track already, and so it's easy, obviously, to get on this. It's more of the indoor track that you would want to prepare for.
Yeah. So Bowerman putting together a big training block up in Flagstaff. and it's been paying dividends in every single race. They went undefeated, swept every single race at the Prickly Pear Invitational just a couple weeks ago. Come here, and they've already got one win. We'll see if they try and add a second one in the men's 1500, where they've got 2 of their guys.
And so I was hoping that we would be able to grab an interview with Gabriella, but I
when we saw her on the feed, she was in front of the garbage can. So
that's always a good
really
sign.
when you leave it out there.
Yeah, you know she went for it. And now I just want to point out as well that we have 8,135
No way.
people in the YouTube chat right now. And I said my goal tonight was 10,000. I think that we can do it.
You know, there's a way of doing that. If everyone in this chat, that's right, we're looking right at you. You take that link that's right there in the description box. You copy and paste it. You tweet it out. You put it in on your Instagram bio, and you tell people, hey, tune in. We've got some great races on our hands here. It's a Saturday night. Let's get a little weird.
Something that I really believe in is the sharing of the sport. I think that, you know, you look at some other sports like the NBA, and their content is everywhere. You know, the licensing rights for them is a really big thing because they want people to share the highlights all over social media. And I think that's something important that track and field needs to continue to do, which is show the highlights. Those retweets make a big difference. It's a way to communicate to other people that the sport is cool and that there's something to get excited about. And so sharing that, I think, is kind of the next thing that track and field needs to do is, you know, and we're seeing it on the YouTube channels everywhere, that there's a lot of content being produced, and I think it's really, really good for the sport.
No, and the other thing, too, that's kind of interesting is that you did make a point where it's like MLB got held back for a while because, you know, they were just like, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I think it's better if we all just be nice.
Yeah.
Share.
A rising tide lifts all boats, I believe is the saying. And so, yeah, so, you know, I think that... I think that we are getting word that we might have Gabriella down there. Let's
toss it over to Emma real quick.
Gabrielle, how are you feeling?
Oh, pretty good, you know. I have a bad habit of needing to, you know, grab a trash can after a race, but other than that, I feel good.
Yeah, it was tactical. Were you expecting that with, you know, this big field, lots of big names? Did you want it to be tactical?
I wasn't surprised that it was tactical, just given the weather. It was, you know, a bit windy out there, and I feel like the big names in the field already had Olympic standards, so there's not like a ton on the line other than pride. Yeah. So I wasn't surprised, but yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to run a bit faster, but that's the way it went, so.
Well, you won $750.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, how do you feel about that? By the beer mile.
Well, you know, Sinclair and I had a deal that whoever won today would buy the other drinks, so I guess that's what I'm doing.
Well, there we go. Awesome job tonight.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Back to you guys.
You got to love that confidence between the two of them. They knew one of them were going to win. They ended up going 1-2.
Wow, yeah, that's right. So a little bit about that race that we just saw. It was presented by the Sir Walter Myler. I forgot to mention the sponsor beforehand, but it's one of our favorite races. We've both been to it many times in the past. I've gone to it 3 times.
I've won it. Have you?
You won it? No, I haven't.
No, that was me. I've also lost it.
So with Sir Walter, they're also putting on a 20K, and we want you guys to check it out. Their first ever event will be the first Friday in August. That'll be the Sir Walter Myler. But between now and then, the first safe race back in Raleigh since COVID restrictions have been lifted is going to be that Greenway 20K. So check out greenway20k.com for more information.
And now we have the men's 1500 on the line. These athletes tonight, we have Paul Ryan, Sam Prakel, Johnny Gregoric, Justin Knight, Craig Nowak, Josh Thompson, Eric Jenkins, Nick Willis, Amos Bartismeyer, Vincent Ciatti, Pat Casey, James Randon, Charlie Hunter, Robbie Andrews, Casey Neville-Bard, and James West.
And the sponsor for this one is the Beer Mile Podcast. You guys saw the guys in the booth just a little bit earlier. And they craft up a little bit of storyline. We don't have Centrowitz in this one. We have Josh Thompson, who talked a little bit about beef. And again, you said he could be the guy to watch in this race.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's already finding his way towards the front, but you have Johnny Gregoric immediately on the rabbit. I believe that is Ryan Adams. He won last night in personal best of 3:38, and so it's very, very nice to have someone that you know is capable. And really quickly, I just do want to point out that the Olympic trials qualifying time is 3:37.5, but the Olympic trials standard is 3:35.0.
Everyone is lined up for this one.
They are out quick in a big field like this. You need to allow them to spread out as they come through 300 meters in 41 seconds. We spoke about this earlier about Gabriella. Johnny is another athlete who's been in plenty of Diamond League races. He's used to racing those Kenyans and Jakob Ingebrigtsen, those athletes who are not afraid to take it out in 54, 55 seconds. So he is not intimidated by a 41-second first 300. And just behind him, you have Justin Knight and Josh Thompson. The way that this field is completely strung out is a great indicator that we are rolling. And you see those lights on the infield. The pacer is perfectly on it.
Right behind Johnny is Justin Knight. He's got a 3:36 personal best from the 2018 Brian Clay Invitational. So if he tries to snag that Olympic standard, then that could go down.
Johnny is running with a ton of confidence, something that reminds me of him winning the Summertown Track Series at Icon Stadium. He was not afraid to take the lead at the front and make it fast. And behind Josh Thompson is James West as they come through 700 meters in about 1:39. So Chris, we, again, I believe are having this rabbit go about 1,000 meters, and I'm sure he'll try to squeeze out every little bit that he can as he comes through 800 meters in about 1:54 seconds.
Just look at that line right there on the backstretch.
Something I always like to talk about is the ability of a rabbit to really wind up the pace. It's important that the momentum doesn't stop. You don't want that final 200 meters before he steps off to be slow. You want them to be moving into their kick. Get them going. Let them know that this is the pace that they're going to need to do if they're going to want to run fast.
Now, is that Charlie Hunter on the right behind Josh Thompson right there? Yep, that is him.
You do see Charlie Hunter, the big Australian, starting to move up. Josh Thompson also starting to move into lane 2. It seems like the pace up front slowed down just a hair as they move into their final lap. They're approaching the bell in 2:40 high. So closing in 55 seconds here, completely attainable, but they do want to get moving early, and it looks like Charlie Hunter has that in mind. It's something that the pressure is on him. This is his opportunity to go get that time, and he has to make it happen.
The Oregon Duck versus the Bowerman Track Club stud.
Josh Thompson immediately responds. We saw him run 3:34 last year at BU, doing it the hard way, closing by himself very, very quickly. And so he's one that is not afraid to get going. But Justin Knight also immediately responds as Amos Bartesmeyer and his former teammate Sam Brakel are chasing Charlie Hunter down, but Justin Knight pulls into lane 2. He is making a decisive move. We're going to see if Charlie Hunter has the ability to respond. Amos looks very strong, the German, trying to get his standard out of the way as well. But the Canadian Justin Knight looks extremely strong. He's going to be just outside that standard, but 3:36, and we're going to wait on what that official time is. It's looking like it was about a 55 high final lap.
You know what? Another little storyline that we kind of overlooked is the fact that this just snapped Josh Thompson's winning streak. He had not lost a 1,500 meter race since 2019, I believe.
So we had 9,100 people watching that race, and I know one is Malcolm Gladwell, who's probably quite excited that the Canadian took that one home.
A good old Canadian takes the dub here.
This was the first time, I guess, outside of that 800 we saw at Prickly Pear that Amos has been donning the Bowerman Track Club singlet.
Standout star out of Georgetown. Spent a little bit of time right afterwards with Andy Powell at UW. Was training with Sam Brakel, but has really taken so well to Jerry Schumacher's training.
And we see the results on the screen. Knight 3:36.6. Amos was 3:37.0. So, you know, I think something that maybe this is an opportune time to touch on is that although the standard is the easiest way to do, and it obviously allows you to relax a little bit, the ranking system is a very, very...
It's confusing, but you studied it this afternoon.
I've studied it before, and I continue to learn more and more about it, which, you know, in the 1500, it's basically, I can go into this a little bit more in depth come the 5K when we have some time, but in the 1500, it's kind of an average of your 5 best times, and so for Justin to throw this in the mix, not too bad.
We've got Justin right now. We're going to toss it over to Emma on the sidelines.
Justin, commanding win there. What are your thoughts right after the race?
It felt really good. Felt relaxed. I thought the pacer did a really phenomenal job of keeping the pace, and I think we fell off of it for a little bit, but in terms of race tactics, I think I finished well.
Yeah, what was the strategy going into the race? There were a lot of big names in this field, so were you a little nervous?
Yeah, I mean, I get nervous for all my races. You know, at the professional level, you know, there's a reason why a lot of these guys are professional. All of them are capable of phenomenal things. So I'm aware of everybody. I know I'm stepping down in distance, and I was just trying to keep calm. And I think the most important thing was to get off the line in a good position. I think I did that.
Yeah, well, you did an awesome job, and you just won $750 from the Be Mile podcast. How does that feel? What are you going to do with it?
You know, today's my brother's birthday, so if he's watching, it's his $750. He can do whatever he wants with it.
Wow, so generous. That is awesome. Well, awesome job tonight. Excited to see what you do for the rest of the year. Great job.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
See ya. Back to you guys.
So nice. Wow.
What a brother.
Yeah, you're just getting Venmos for $750 out of nowhere. That's got to feel so good.
Well, that was a great race. And, you know, Justin is an athlete that I think, you know, his future is probably in the 5K on the international stage. But if you're going to be an internationally competitive 5K runner, you have to be able to run a 1500 as well.
Now, so again, like, what do you want to see if you're a 5K specialist like Justin? What do you want to see out of these early season 1500s?
You know, I think for him, it's probably more about that strength, and are you feeling really comfortable running those early 57s and 58s, and can you close off of it, because that's the way that the 5K is going to probably finish. You know, it's not uncommon to see a sub 4 minute mile win an Olympic medal. That's often what it takes to do, and so you know, I think running 3:36 becoming relatively routine for him is a good sign of long-term success.
And now that's Canada's 2 for 2 in the races here tonight. One thing I guess that we kind of you can discuss a little bit more of how those rankings work, but another like storyline to keep monitoring as the season goes on is Athletics Canada has kind of changed up a little bit of its selection process for the Olympics, given that they're not going to host a full-scale trials in Montreal come this summer.
Yeah, so you know, I think it then becomes especially important to be running fast in the regular season, because it's not necessarily like the American system in which you just have to show up and be ready to go on that one day, and it's part of COVID, obviously. Some things are changing up, and I think they're still going to have quite the strong team.
So coming up, we've got the women's 800 meters.
So I guess, you know, I was being texted quite a few things, and I think one of the things that really stuck out to me was we have a new collegiate record and a world-leading time out of Ating Mu. She ran 1:58.4.
Wow.
It's pretty
It's
good.
been on fire. And it was interesting. Last year was a very weird year for her, but before that, won the U.S. title, set the world U.S. indoor record. This is just, she's on a tear. I wish we had her in this race. Initially, this was going to be Raven Rogers versus Ajay Wilson. Raven Rogers had to scratch, but I think Mo is like going to be the one that people have their eyes on come this outdoor season.
So last night, you put out a tweet about the 800 saying that we needed a sponsor.
That's right.
Are you going to do your famous ad reads?
Yeah, so let me tell you about who stepped up and heard the call. It's the one and only Oiselle. They've been around the sport for quite a bit. You and I have attended some of their parties. We won't talk too much in detail about those. So let me tell you a bit about Oiselle's Bras for Girls charitable donation program. It started in 2017. The mission of Bras for Girls is to donate sports bras to girls, targeting late elementary to middle school girls at an age in which some girls choose to stop participating in sports due to discomfort with their changing bodies. So in addition to bra donations, Oisel's goal is to share educational content with a wide spectrum of girls and women about body development and how to accurately choose and fit a sports bra. Oisel has donated over 10.5 thousand bras to middle school girls in need, and they plan to keep growing the program every year. So they're looking for suggestions on who you think might be good partners. Bras for Girls is supported by Oisel's purchases. So if you want to directly support Bras for Girls donations, contribute to Oisel's Woman Up Fund, which directly supports the program. You can learn more information over at oisel.com. Their Twitter page promotes it all the time, so you can also check it out there.
And are they the sponsor for the men's 800 as well?
I believe so.
That's kind of funny. And so we are now lined up, getting ready for this women's 800. As soon as the gun goes off, I will read the field. And in lane 1, we have Kendra Chambers. In lane 2, Adele Tracy. Lane 3, Kayla Edwards. Lane 4, Sierra Brown. Hip 5, Charlene Lipsy. 6, Ajay Wilson. 7, Hannah Seagrave. 8, Kate Grace. 9, Sammy Watson. 10, Alexa Ephraimson. The Olympic trials qualifying time is 2:02.5, but the Olympic trials time is 1:59.5. Olympic standard time is 1:59.5.
The world leading time, 2:01 by Sinclair Johnson just a couple weeks ago.
And they come through 200 in a very honest 27 seconds. That's exactly where you want to be. You can tell based off the way that they are spread out right now that they feel good, and they are being led by Ajay Wilson up front with the local Kendra Chambers, former UT athlete and Texas resident still behind her.
Oisel middle distance runner.
There you go. And then in third place is Sierra Brown of Hoka, and that is through 400 meters in 57 seconds. They look very, very strong. As the rabbit steps off, she did a wonderful job, really set them up well. Kayla Edwards in 4th place is starting to move up outside Sierra Brown.
Kendra Chambers is really making a push here. Her PR is 2 flat, 76.
In 5th place, I believe that is Kate Grace, the now boss-trained athlete. She's, you know, a former Olympian at 800 meters.
In this race, you could pick anyone. It's like Kayla Edwards making a move right now on Ajay Wilson. She almost took Ajay to the line out in Ocean Breeze just a couple weeks ago.
They came through 600 meters in 1:28, so I'm pretty sure that we are going to see a sub-2, something that is not foreign to many of these athletes in the field, as Ajay Wilson starts to throw the hammer down. Something that we see her do all the time is control races from the front. Kayla
the
Edwards,
American record holder,
is chasing her down, doing her best, but is probably going to run out of real estate as Ajay Wilson may be too strong. It's going to be close, but Ajay Wilson holds on for about 1:58. We're going to see if that's a new world leading time.
World leading time was 2:01 by Sinclair Johnson. So we
until
just now.
A thing moved.
No,
oh,
well, this is
like
indoors.
This
is outside. Okay. But I think we might have just got to Tokyo marks?
Ajay Wilson,
we got Ajay.
158.9, and then Seagrave 201.3. Although I think that's going to shuffle up a little bit.
Yeah, the bibs take a couple seconds to figure itself out, but
not something that is unusual is Ajay Wilson being able to control a very, very honest and fast race from the front. I think for a lot of athletes, they have a difficult time changing gears when they're already up front. And Ajay, she hits 100 meters to go and she just blasts off.
Yeah, so you know, after the pandemic shut down last spring, she continued training under Coach Derek Thompson, but just never showcased that fitness. And she just, with this 158, she shows that she never lost her step. I did read a really good article in the Philadelphia Inquirer that said that last year she started helping out at Sankofa Healing Studio, which is a Philly-based nonprofit that addresses trauma associated with mass incarceration. So she's been doing good work on and off the track.
Something that we were speaking about last night as we saw a couple stud high schoolers running 800s here is the ability of 800 runners running well when they're younger and also developing as they get older and continuing to improve. And Ajay Wilson has been around for such a long time. She's still very, very young. She has so many American titles, and you know, she's now also proven that she can move up and she can run the 1500 and the mile well. So you know, it's already been an incredible career, but I think 2021 Tokyo Olympics might be the opportunity for her to really put a stamp on it.
Oh, I mean, you know, the latest news is that Caster Semenya is still appealing, you know, for her to try and be eligible for Tokyo. But Ajay is definitely one of those contenders. And so now let's hear from her and Emma down on the sidelines.
Ajay, another commanding win. What were your thoughts going into this race? What was the goal?
I just wanted to commit to the pace. We definitely want to get used to coming through 57, 58 for the year up ahead. So committing to that and then finishing hard was what we're going for today.
1:58.93, new world leading time. How does that make you feel right now at this point in the season?
I'm definitely happy with that time. I wanted to go sub 2. You know, we haven't raced in a while, so any opportunity is great, and I'm glad I was able to get it done today.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a great time at this point in the year. What's the goal for the rest of the year?
Just keep training and waiting for opportunities to race.
All right, awesome. Well, great job tonight, and back to you guys.
So that pace that she threw out there about coming through in 400, I'm trying to think of how the last couple World Championships have shaken out. Like it's different because you're not chasing someone like Caster Semenya as of right now.
Yeah, you know, with that, there's an opportunity maybe for a little bit more of a tactical race, but the 800 has just, you know, become so quick behind Caster. It's not like Caster was the only one who was improving here. And so
dragged a lot of people to really fast times.
A 158 is very, very good for Ajay, but I have a feeling that you're going to need to be in probably 155 shape if you're going to want a medal come the Olympics. And I do have a lot of confidence that she will get there.
So we've got 7 minutes between events right now.
Coming up next is the men's 800, sponsored by Oiselle. Very cool to see Kendra in there, up in the front, competing.
She heard they were sponsoring the race. I got to show out for the sponsor.
Something that I always do is, you know, for non-track people, when I kind of describe what the pro running scene looks like. You know, you're obviously not playing for the New York Knicks. It's not necessarily the same way that other professional sports are set up. I always say that we're kind of like NASCAR.
Yeah.
We are a moving billboard,
but we should be able to showcase more of it.
Yeah, and you know, I think social media is really probably the most opportune place right now for people to communicate their sponsors and the ability to work with them in that support. But it's kind of like we're NASCAR. We are the cars. And when we run well, it shows that that engine oil works quite nicely.
I like that comparison.
Yeah, and so, you know, I think for a lot of these athletes, they are the extension of the marketing department of their relative sponsors. They are the ones that are out in front. They're meeting people at different races and running events, and are, you know, they have 9,000 fans watching them on YouTube right now. So, you know, nice for Adidas to see Ajay Wilson winning that kit.
Now, that's always a really funny question I like to ask. So when you were a pro runner, you're sitting next to someone on an airplane, they ask you what you do. Did you say pro runner? Because then you have to go through all this little awkward banter, or did you say I work in marketing?
No. You know, I have always really enjoyed saying I'm a professional athlete.
Wow.
And then have them guess. And
what was the most common guess?
You'd get like bowling.
Really?
Golf. Maybe
I could see you as
tennis.
a golfer.
But you know, track wasn't necessarily always on the forefront, but they knew I wasn't in the NFL.
Oh yeah, I would have guessed it too. But if any NFL players out there watching this thing right now, don't you want to challenge them to, what was it? You have that very viral tweet that you put out.
Yeah, it's been an
based
ongoing...
off of like all the beef that it's track athletes trying to put respect on their sport.
Yeah, no, I think some of those in the football world don't necessarily respect what track speed is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the opportunity to get some track athletes at the combine, you'll really see just how much quicker they are.
I just saw Grant Holloway wants to run one, wants to run a 40.
Yeah, I mean, throw some hurdles in there, he'll still win. And so, you know, for me, I said, if any NFL player wants to step up, race me in a 1500, I will bury you. Although every week that has passed in my retirement, they're getting closer and closer.
So right now on your screen, you see Isaiah Harris here. We had Drew Piazza also on there. I want to explain a little bit of the beef between these guys. So we posted the graphic.
You love beef.
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of the people on YouTube were talking about beef yesterday in the chat. So I want to highlight this one that maybe not too many people know of. And they're laughing at each other. I think they were just side by side.
I have a feeling they might be friends.
I think so too. But let's play it up. So a couple days ago, we posted the Instagram with the whole field, and it was the 800 there. Drew Piazza strikes first. He says Isaiah Harris is a weenie. In New York City, those are fighting words. So.
I have a feeling
Isaiah
you
Harris,
were called a weenie
way too
once
many
or twice
times at Our
growing
Lady of Fatima Catholic School in Jackson Heights. Isaiah Harris didn't take to it well. He just responded that man runs in a T-shirt, and ever since then, it's been heated.
So this men's 800, to run through the heat real quick, is Christian Harrison, Robert Downs, Sam Ellison, Isaiah Harris, Tontiu Lopez Alvarez, Drew Piazza, and Michael Rhodes. And this is going to be my thing. I always give kudos to those new sponsors. Diadora sponsoring Robert Downs. That's a big name that I think we're going to start seeing in track more and more here the next few years. As the gun is off, the Olympic trials qualifying time is 146.25, and the Olympic standard is 145.2. Many of these athletes have been teetering on the edge of those times the last couple of years, and so this is hopefully a great opportunity as they have a very capable rabbit up front in the young Hoey.
I believe that's Josh Hoey, right?
He won here last night in 147, so he's someone that you can trust, and I wouldn't be surprised if he runs over 400 meters. And the man who is sticking on him out of the U.S. Air Force is Michael Rhodes. They have a huge gap all the way back.
Rhodes is really just like, I'm going to make the most out of his opportunity. He finished 6th at the 2019 NCAA Championships. Earlier this month, he ran 147.97 indoors in Ames, Iowa.
That is a 49-second first 400. And again, I spoke to this earlier. Hoey is capable. He's someone you can trust, and he's able to go through 500 meters, winding him up. But now he's all on his own. It is Michael Rhodes.
23 years old, out of Air Force. That 146.58 was set here in Texas, so maybe he's hoping for a little bit of luck here.
That's a 117 through 600 meters. As Isaiah Harris is starting to make a move around Alvarez, he looks good. Rhodes is coming back to him very, very quickly.
Ooh, Rhodes might be tying up.
With 100 meters left, you're going to look to see Alvarez swinging into lane 2. Isaiah Harris into lane 3. They blow by Rhodes, but now they're neck and neck. Isaiah Harris is going to the arms. Can Alvarez hold him off? They're running quick. It's going to be close for that standard 145 at the line. It looks like it was Isaiah Harris on the outside.
I agree with you.
That was fantastic. That was just a good old exciting race. Lots of credit to Rhodes for going for it, especially in a field like that.
That was a hot first 400.
Rhodes tried to make the absolute most of the opportunity. All the kudos to him, but it was just a little bit too long of a race today. He ran a hell of a 700. I'm confident with a few more soon, he's going to find that next 100. But it was all about Isaiah Harris. The beef, has it been squashed?
I think he takes the dub in the beef.
We're waiting to see what that official time is.
146.19.
And Lopez Alvarez in second, 146.25. Rhodes did hold on to run 147.3, but Isaiah Harris once again shows he's Mr. Consistency. He can run 146, and now it's going to be about, can he run 143 later in the season? I have a feeling that he's going to find a way.
Yeah, like I said before on the CITIUS Mag podcast that I did with Bryce Hoppel, he thinks it takes 145 to make the final, and then from there a little bit faster to make that team behind him and Donovan Brazier.
Here we go to that replay. You see Rhodes with 100 meters left.
It ran out of room. He ran a good 700.
I love the way Isaiah looks like he's always tying up, but he somehow manages a way to keep going faster.
And here's a link up from above on the drone, and it was that close. Gotta love that angle from the drone. And we're tossing it over to Emma now, who has Isaiah.
Isaiah, 146.19. How are we feeling about it?
I'm excited. Last weekend I kind of had a rust buster, didn't go my way, so I was excited to have another opportunity and kind of test the fitness again and kind of really show where I'm at instead of last week. So it was good.
Chris and Kyle were talking about some beef between you and Drew. Do you want to explain what that was? Is the beef squashed?
To be honest, we were just trying to spice things up a little bit. The sport can be kind of dry, so we wanted to stir the pot a little bit. But no, it's all love.
So people want to know about your feelings on Bryce's performances and Donovan's so far in the season. What do you think you're going to have to do to make that Olympic team later in the year?
Just stay healthy. It's early. It's tough to see everybody running fast this early, and I'm not ready to run 143 or 144. I can admit that. But when the time comes, I will be ready. June's when it's important. So.
Yeah. Well, tonight, I feel like you just won that race. That showed some good fitness there. So, awesome job.
Thank you so much.
And back to you guys.
So we are joined in the booth by the #1 running YouTube channel. Unfortunately, he had to scratch from racing this weekend, but it's the one and only Morgan McDonald. Morgan, thanks for joining us. The camera's right over there.
You can look anywhere you want.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
How are you feeling? How's that ankle doing?
Well, I don't know. It's not great, but who cares? Tonight is not about me. It's about these guys racing.
Amen.
All right, so we've got some 5Ks coming up. In this one, we've got, well, I guess who are you most excited about? When these fields were first assembled, we had a couple changes later on, but who did you have your eyes on initially as someone I have to watch out for?
Well, obviously the big guys for me initially were probably the on guys like Joe Klecker and Ollie, especially Ollie because that guy just ran 3:32 and who knows what he's capable of right now. He's very strong, so he can run a fast 5K for sure. But obviously there are a lot of other people. I think Willie Fink. I think he's really good.
He's been the most underrated.
We're big on buying stock on Willie Fink.
I think he's one of those guys who, his breakout happened at the start of 2020, so it coincided with the COVID stuff.
Exactly.
And so you didn't get to see the full potential of it, but I think he's very good.
And he did win the mile last weekend at the JDL Fast Track down in North Carolina. And so, a nice little tune-up leading into a 5K. For you, Morgan, what do you find is the best way to prepare for a 5K? Is there anything that you do in training maybe a little bit differently, or the races leading in versus when you're preparing for a 1500?
Yeah, for me, I feel like I can run a 1500 off just whatever, essentially. Not to discredit the event or anything, but I really like a 1500 or a 3K going into a 5K. I think getting a race in at that faster pace is really good because the thing with the 5K is I think it's the most painful event, honestly.
Have you done a 10K?
I've done one at conference. I don't know if that counts.
Okay.
We jogged around a bit. But the 5K there's so much discomfort, whether you're running, 63, 64, 65s. That pace is never comfortable. So getting in some form of an effort, which is a bit faster than that in a race form, I think sets you up really good to race a 5K.
So these conditions here in Austin right now tonight, I know personally my hands are a little sweaty.
It's a little humid.
It's a little humid.
Yeah.
Does that affect the athletes' minds going into a 5K, or is it maybe just short enough that it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I would say the athletes are going to be very hot and sweaty. They're definitely going to be very hot and sweaty, and I think inevitably that might have a bit of an impact, but I think 5K is still short enough that it's not going to do anything too crazy to you as long as you don't freak out about it or anything. I think these are still great conditions for 5K racing.
Now, I'm a diehard fan of your YouTube channel. You know that.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who's a bigger fan? Maybe not.
Not that I've met.
Yeah.
Well, so actually, I want to get the YouTube chat going. Let's get some Morgan McDonald chants going in the YouTube chat.
Oh, yeah, this is on YouTube?
Yeah.
Yo, guys, check out my account.
So, Morgan, I know that your girlfriend is from Austin, Texas,
She is.
and one of my favorite YouTube videos of yours is that long run in which you didn't drink enough water and slowly came to a halt over the course of, I believe, 18 miles.
Yeah.
So, what is the preparation like in these slightly warmer conditions?
Definitely you need a lot of water, more than I had on that particular long run. That was me just falling apart for 18 miles essentially. But then that was also the food a lot. You got to make sure you eat a lot. I'm sure everyone that's racing tonight has done I hope at least they've done better preparation for their race tonight than I did for that long run, because that was not pretty. That was very painful. But yeah, you're definitely gonna drink a lot. But you know, I don't think it's honestly that different to any other race, because you don't want to drink too much water on race day. You don't want to feel like you got too much water in your belly or anything. So I think it's pretty normal, actually. You're just going to be extremely dehydrated at the end.
Is there a certain race day meal that you always take to? Maybe a little bit different for that 1500 versus the 5K?
No, I'm really not that type of person. I like to kind of consciously have no race day superstitions or like things that I need to do, just because if you can't do that, then that might mess with you mentally. So I'm pretty relaxed. I'm lucky, like my stomach can handle a lot of stuff, so it's not really a big issue for me. But I'm a normal, just like every single other runner. You know, I eat oatmeal, I eat sandwiches, nothing too crazy.
Can you update, I guess, like the people watching, just like what is your, I know we've talked enough about just like the process on getting to the Olympics for the United States, but what does your process look like?
Yeah, it's a little more confusing. It's a little more complicated. Australia has a policy where they have one automatic spot from the trials if you have the standard, and then the rest of the spots are up to more selectors' discretion. So, you know, I have an exemption to not race the nationals this year. I think they're in March. And with COVID and everything, it just doesn't really make sense. You know, you have a 2-week hotel quarantine and that. So luckily, I don't need to do that, which is nice. And so for me at this point, Stuart McSwain has a spot if he wants it, obviously. He won the nationals, which was actually last year, and he has the time. But apart from that, it really comes down to just running quick enough, or, you know, doing well enough in races where you get your ranking high enough is pretty much it.
Was it a difficult decision for you upon graduation to decide to stay in the States, or were you considering moving back home?
No, it was pretty easy for me. I mean, I knew that with the depth of the pro running here in America, it's just another level to Australia. Australia is so much smaller. There's not too many options. So the U.S. was always where it was going to be for me.
What's been your favorite part about training with Joe and Team Boss?
Man, it's been such a good transition. It's honestly so fun. Joe and I work really well together. You know, I'm someone who likes to get after, likes to try and do a lot of stuff, and he feeds into that a lot. And you know, we get to go train in these beautiful locations, Crested Butte, Boulder. So I love that as well. But there's a lot of great stuff, you know. Coming out of college, I stayed with Mick for a bit, but I felt like I kind of needed that switch a bit to get to a more like kind of pro environment, and that's what it's been. It's been perfect.
So you are sponsored by Under Armour. Is there, you know, we talk a lot about the shoes and whatnot right now and the different gear. I always think that you guys have one of the coolest uniforms out there. But
thank you.
Any takes? How are things going over there? I saw that you weren't willing to share some of the stuff on a YouTube channel on some things dropping. But where's your head at? And is there anything you can preview or give away right now?
Well, they do have some new flats coming out next week, which I'm pretty excited about. The Flow Wind, I believe they're called. Those are the shoes that I couldn't show on video. But yeah, apart from that, they're just doing what they can. You know, they've got a lot of stuff in development, and I think it's gonna be pretty good, but it's not quite ready yet.
So you ran a great 2-mile at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix last weekend. Is that last week already?
Yeah, we've lost track of time.
That was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We don't know time.
Me neither.
Tell me about that race. How did it feel? Was that about what you were expecting?
We've got the 5K coming up.
Let's run through these real quick, and then we'll hear more from Morgan. But in Hip 1, Kirabella Rasa. 2, Bia Simbasa. 3, Joseph Tessema. 4, Erica Vila. 5, Hillary Bohr. 6, Ryan Hill. 7, Willie Fink. 8, Kieran Lum. 9, Mason Furlick. 10, Maximilian Thorwith. And in hip number 11 is Ben Flanagan. A reminder, the Olympic trials qualifying time is 13:25, and the Olympic standard is 13:13. Also, in the descending order list of the rankings, it's the 42nd. You have to be in the top 42. I can explain more of that maybe in a little bit. And the lights are set to be at 13:20 pace. They're looking about 63s tonight.
This men's 5K is presented by Nate Reich. Nate is currently training for the 2021 Paralympic Games, where he'll be representing Canada. He's got deep roots in the sport of track and field, so he stepped up, messaged us, and said, hey, you know what? I want to support this race. He actually sent us something to say here. He said, it's so great to have an opportunity to be the sponsor for the men's Olympic 5K. I only feel it's fitting with 2 fellow Canadians in the field and my college teammate Trip Hurd pacing. He's like, I want to support this race for a few reasons. First is the sport of track and field was a saving grace for me after my traumatic brain injury in 2005. Additionally, many of us fans and runners have conversations about what we'd like to see in our beautiful sport of track and field. Instead, we've been complaining about it, but now I've decided to do my part in supporting such a great meet. So thanks to Nate for sponsoring this race.
And so behind the two rabbits, we have Willie Fink, Morgan's pick for tonight. Then we have Mason Furlick, and then we have Maximilian Thorwith, the German athlete, who actually came up to me yesterday.
This is a great story.
He came up to me yesterday when we were hanging out at the track, and he said he just wanted to introduce himself because apparently 5 years ago,
Sent you a DM.
He slid into my DMs asking some questions, some advice, and thankfully I responded, and he said it was really good advice and helpful, and so for that reason alone, I'll be rooting for Maximilian.
So in that 2 mile, Morgan, that you did at Ocean Breeze, I believe like Maximilian was in that race as well. So, I mean, like, what can you take from a 2 mile like that and apply it to a 5K like this?
Yeah, like I said before, that's kind of your perfect preparation where you're just racing it slightly quicker for a little bit shorter, and it just gets you ready to go. I think after an effort like that, Max is going to be feeling pretty good. But yeah, for me, the 5K is all about staying relaxed for as long as possible. So, you know, if you've done a 2 mile a little bit quicker, you feel confident that you're able to do that. And these guys, you know, they're running pretty quick. They're running 64s right now. That's definitely not easy, but I'm sure after racing at, you know, 62, 63s for 2 miles, it feels a little better.
Yeah, so they were 2:39 at the K.
They're a little bit ahead of the lights right now.
Yeah, no, they're perfect. And I believe, as we said, those lights were set for 13:20, and that is 2:40 per K, 64s. You know, I've decided that, you know, where others will say go out to your local high school track and that's kind of their trademark, for me, I'm just talking about negative splitting. That's going to be my trademark, I've decided. And for the 5K tonight, going out, running 13:20 pace, being comfortable, and Morgan, I would love for you to kind of speak on that, the importance of feeling really good in the beginning of the race, because I know in the 2 mile, you guys didn't necessarily go out at a blistering pace, but still were able to close very hard.
Yeah, I think it's very surprising how much you can make up in the last mile of one of these races, you know, as opposed to going out too hard and kind of dying a little bit. It's such a long way. It's both from a physical and a mental standpoint. You want to be able to relax. So, you know, if you can run, I think something like, if you can run 2 4:16s and then your third mile is a low 4, you know, that's close to a 13 flat. A 5K right there. So if you can really close hard, it makes such a big difference. And I mean, these guys, I'm sure they're going to be able to do it tonight. It's going to be good.
So I actually just got a text from Coach James McCurdy, and he was saying just given the conditions tonight and the heat and the humidity that they are running in, a 4:14 mile will probably feel a little bit more like a 4:21 mile. Morgan, any validity there?
Yeah, I've had a very hot and humid race at the 2018 Com Games trials, the Australian Nationals, and it was one of the toughest races of my life. I will say, these 5Ks, you know, that pace never feels easy, so that humidity just makes it even tougher.
So they came through the mile in 4:16, just clicking off those 64s, feeling really good. Willie Fink is up front behind Trip Hurt, our rabbit, who's doing a great job. Everyone is just lined up, hugging the rail, hugging the brickyard, and feeling hopefully good still, Morgan? Is that fair to say?
This is exactly what you want as a 5K runner. You want to switch off and not think. You want a pacer that can hit his splits and then a nice line behind him. So everyone behind him is so happy right now. This really can't go any better. Willie Fink, he's right behind the pacer. That's a bit of a tough spot to be, you know, because at some point, not that far away, that pacer is going to step off, and then you have some decisions to make whether you want to keep pushing it or whether you want to sit and let someone else take it. But they're all looking pretty good at the front there, I think.
So, out there in the back, you can see a little bit of Ryan Hale peeking out to try and make a little bit of a move in his position.
In December, we saw a big breakthrough from Eric Avila, I believe, at the Sound Running. And he ran a 5K in 13:18.
13:18. His previous PR before that had been 13:43.
So what is that like, Morgan, when you have now successfully run a 5K? He's made a big jump before. Does he now maybe approach this, and is he willing to take a different risk that maybe last time it may have been a little bit too scary of a jump?
Yeah, speaking from personal experience, that confidence that you've done it before helps a ton. However, I can say that you also are still afraid, because when I ran my big 5K PB, I remember it being the most painful thing I'd ever done. So, you know, I remember on the second lap just being in so much pain. So I knew it was going to be crazy, and I knew to run faster was just going to hurt more. So I think it helps to be prepared for that, but, you know, you still always, you know it's never, nothing's going to be given to you, you know, you got to take it, and it's never easy.
Is it fair to say that's a little bit different than a 1500? Because oftentimes your best 1500s almost feel easy.
I agree. It's crazy how that works, but 5Ks, sometimes they feel easy, I will say, but most of the time it's such a grind out there.
So we see Tripp step off. The Rabbit is now off the track, and it's up to the athletes. Willie Fink is up front. They're about 10, 15 meters behind the lights. Very, very great to have those and give some perspective to where they are relative to 13:20 pace.
I think Biasimbasa is struggling a little bit with the bricks. I've seen him a couple times now just kind of take a couple weird steps.
It's very easy to kind of get lost in the guys back in front of you. You're just trying to zone out, forget about everything, and those bricks, you know, they blend in with the rubber red track.
They'll get you. But yeah, this is where it gets tough, because I can tell you the way that I like to race 5K is you try to switch off for 3K, and then you know that 4th K is going to suck, and then you get to that 5th K, and you're like, all right, I can do the rest of this. The fact that the pace has dropped off a little early, and they have to start pushing just a little bit earlier, I think that just makes it a bit tougher.
So we now see a couple groups forming. So you have Fink up front leading 5. Behind him is Mason Furlick, Hillary Bohr, Kiribella Rasa, and Biasimbasa. And then a few seconds back, you have Erica Vila leading a second chase group. And so, you know, at this point, Morgan, is it a matter of just trusting your fitness, or is it now finally actually hurting?
It's hurting a lot right now, and you know you still have 2K to go. I think they're about to hit that 3K split. But if you're feeling good, like it looks like a couple of these guys are, you know, you make some moves and you keep it going, because you're trying to run a pace. You're not coming here to leave anything on the track. So it's good to see them making some moves.
As they approach 3K in about 8:04, 8:05, Kiribella Rasa has taken over the pace from Willie Fink, with fellow Hoka athlete hot on his heels, Hillary Bohr. Tell us a little bit about what it is to switch paces off with your competitors, especially at this point in the race when you're trying to still work together to catch those lights.
Yeah, you know, these guys they're running on the line right now. That's what the 5K is. They're running on the line, and so any help that they can get from each other is going to be huge. But you know, that's why you often need someone who's just gonna have the big enough balls and just take that race.
Is it a matter of the fact that there's no prize money? Does that make a difference when you're in a race and, you know, there's a few $1,000s on the line? Maybe you're not willing to be as altruistic?
Certainly. I mean, why did all these guys come? The reality is they're here. I mean, they're here for a race, but they're here to run times. Like, that's probably their biggest goal for all of them. So you're definitely much more open to kind of exposing yourself a bit. And I'm sure these guys had some form of a plan before the race, because they're doing a great job now keeping the race going a bit when the pace just lagged a little bit.
I do just want to give another shout out. We broke 10,000 viewers in our YouTube.
Let's do 20. Let's do 20. Keep sharing the link.
As they approach a mile to go, it was about 9:10, 9:11. And Hillary Bohr throws in a little bit of a surge, and we've got a couple meters back to Kiribella.
Yeah, Hillary Bohr, we shouldn't really be shocked by this. He's run 13-14 indoors, 13-26 outdoors. He won his first steeple title in 2019, so he's now trying the 5K here when there aren't these too many opportunities to steeple. He's trying to put on a little bit of a gap here.
So now it seems like that is really starting to spread out. They were probably running 64, 65s, and actually they had run a 66, and that's when they all bunched up, and then they dropped to 64 just there, and you can see the difference of a couple seconds, and I'm sure a lot of guys wanted to start to relax. It's that you start making deals with yourself. I'll get that second back later.
Yeah, I mean, you see what's happening right now. He doesn't want to be in the lead. You can see just by these guys, I think this is the humidity playing a big part right now, because you know, these guys are it's just a bit tougher than they thought it was going to be, and hopefully they can work together and get that pace back going. But, you know, when the pace falls off, that's when the racing really comes out. So I think we're going to see a really good race at the end, even if they're not quite hitting that time that they wanted to hit.
10:17 with 3 laps to go.
We see Mason Furlick. He's been up there in the top 2, top 3 position for quite a bit. Did you race him quite often in the Big Ten?
Yeah, man, big rivals.
Really?
Yeah, for my first couple of years he was there. I beat him a couple times. He beat me a couple times. He's a very talented runner. What that guy's done, especially in the steeple, and now he's doing it on the flat. I'm lucky enough to have paced him to his first sub-4 last year. So you're welcome, Mason. I hope you do very well in this race.
And that was a 68, so they've clearly slowed down a bit. You had seen them stringing out, and they immediately kind of accordion back together. Biasimbasa up front, training partner of Ed Chesrick out of Flagstaff. Very beautiful, fluid form, someone that would probably be quite nice to run behind. Makes you feel a little bit easier when you're running behind someone who does it effortlessly.
Now we got Willie going on the front. This is just racing right now. This is awesome.
With 800 meters left, Willie Fink surges to the lead, 11:23 with 2 laps to go.
What do we tell people? We told people to buy stock on Willie Fink. Let's get a Willie chat going in a Willie chant going in the chat right now.
Out of Eastern Michigan, Willie Fink is a guy who's just buckled up after college and just slowly grinded away.
Just had to stop sleeping on him out of the district track club out in DC.
And now they're actually all starting to work together, to just keep this honest. Hillary Bohr to the front, and Mason has just been riding whoever is in the lead. He's running this tactically like a genius. He hasn't had to lead a single step, and he looks great.
Yeah, and Willie Fink, man, he looks like he's hurting a bit, unfortunately, with still 600 to go. So looks like a race of 3.
And that last 400 was 66 seconds. Ooh. So I think that we're going to see something really, really crazy here with 500 meters to go. You see that there's a lot of life in their legs. There's plenty of pop. Mason is responding to everything that Hillary does as he continues to wind up as they approach 400 meters. As they hit the bell, it is going to be 12:26. That Olympic trials qualifying time of 13:25 is very much in sight. That 13:13 is fully out of reach, but I have a feeling that they're going to have a little bit more than just a sub 60, as they're probably forgetting about the clock, and it's all about beating the other guys. 5,000 meters. Morgan, at what point in this race do you expect Mason to make a decisive move for the front?
Man, he looks good. He looks good, but so does Hillary. I think he's going to, it looks like he's making a bit of a move now, but I think he's going to leave it for a little bit.
With 200 meters, it's 12:56. They're going to need a sub 29. I do believe that is in reach. As soon as you see them swing into lane 2, you know that they're going to go shoulder to shoulder and really get everything out of each other. But Hillary, without any acknowledgement of Mason behind him, starts picking it up. But Mason finally swinging out into lane 2.
Here we go.
You see the height difference between the two, and Mason Furlick's loping stride overtakes Hillary Bohr as he comes through the line in 13:25 in a fist pump. Very exciting for Mason Furlick. Good win for Tracksmith. Shout out to them. Beautiful jersey at the front of the race.
So for a little bit, I believe Mason Furlick had held the world lead in the mile when he ran a really early mile earlier in the month in Florida. Now he takes a win here.
Mason Furlick,
strong start to the year for him.
Continuing to just have a breakout year. He does a lot of running with Nick Willis, who...
It's like that group is hitting a good string of luck. You've got Hobbs Kessler, you got Nick Willis, who extended his sub-4 streak, and now you've got a nice little win here by Mason Furlick.
So we see 13:25.92 for Mason Furlick, and Hillary Bohr 13:26.7, Bia 13:27, Arasa 13:34. Willie Fink just did not have that final lap, 13:42, assuming that the times are all worked out, and that is correct.
Yeah, I did see a tweet already about how I didn't let go of the Willie Fink chant, and as soon as I said it, he kind of started to tie up a little bit. I jinxed it.
But one thing I'd like to add is I think it's hard to, a bit underrated where it's so humid here, and I've had this happen to me before. A lot of these guys are coming from the cold and, the dry. I think that switch is so hard. So I think that's why you saw, just a bit more struggle than you would expect coming to these conditions. But, I mean, that was a great race.
There's Maximilian Thorwith, I believe, on the ground.
That's going to be a tough cool down. What does a cool down look like after a 5K, Morgan? A little
Depends
different?
how well you did.
You wouldn't generally work out after a 5K at this point in the year, I assume.
No, I personally wouldn't. I'm sure some of these maniacs might be thinking about it. But if I run well, I kind of like to run for like 30 minutes and just talk with everyone. If I don't run well, I'll either go very short or very long.
So Mason Furlick, 5K, just outside the Olympic trials qualifying time. There's still a good chance that gets him in, but there will be more opportunities later in the year to find that one final second.
Yeah, and I mean, the big thing is, too, is like we haven't seen him steeple yet, so maybe he's waiting to assess where he's at in that event before he makes a final decision on where he ends up for the trials.
Chris, speaking of the steeplechase, is there anywhere where athletes could possibly find a steeplechase?
That's right. If you love this meet, we're going to be putting on another one in a couple weeks. It's going to be called the Great Barrier Meet. It's going to happen just outside of Kansas City. So stay tuned for more details on that from Trials of Miles Racing.
And we do just want to give another special shout out to our presenting sponsor, Nate Reich. Thank you for stepping up and supporting the game, and we wish you the best of luck in your journey to the Paralympics this year representing Canada.
Yeah, so I'm excited. That was a great race.
That was exciting.
That was really like true racing. And we're going to hit some replays again because
Let's see
people
one more
have been
time.
loving it.
Mason, 4,900 meters had the perfect rabbits.
Exactly, man. He ran that so well. He knew what he had to do. He knew he wanted to just sit behind until the time was right, and he pulled it off well.
Do you think anyone wants to cool down with Mason after a race like that?
No, everyone's going to hate him
Wait,
tonight.
so for the people listening and watching this thing, are you guys saying that Mason just didn't take the lead enough? Is there a little bit of, not animosity, that's a really strong word, but just not being up in front? Like, he didn't really lead a lap, right? So what are you guys thinking in that
I would say the fact that there were 5 guys in that lead pack for much of the race that they probably won't even notice until they come back and watch the race and hear us talk about it.
It's so hard to be cognizant of everything that's happening in a race when you're right on the line. So, I've been in that spot before. As a fellow person who doesn't like to lead when they don't have to, I get where Mason was coming from. I don't think, I think that race was a big step forward for him. So I think he just wanted to be up there and compete. That's all he was thinking about. I think some of the other guys, they were thinking about the time a bit more. So, that's why those are the guys that are going to go to the front and keep pushing it. But for Mason, I don't think you can hold anything against him. I think, coming into this race, I'm not sure exactly what he expected, but I think that was a big jump forwards for him.
Do you think certain guys would handle heat like this or the humidity better than others, or is that all mental?
No, I think some people struggle with it more than others, and I think it's mostly just acclimatizing to it. I think it's that switch that's so hard. I think during the summertime, if you're from somewhere that's humid and you've been training in it, it's fine. It makes a much smaller difference, but I think it's that big switch, which probably a lot of people experience, which makes it really hard.
I always like hearing the stories of just like before a World Championships or like an Olympics, like there's just little, because you're going to go into a really, really humid place sometimes, like it's running with garbage bags on or like extra layers. It's like, do you have any funny stories, I guess, prepping for Doha?
I don't like to do anything too crazy, but I can tell you where before the 2018 Rio Games, where Bauman trained, it was Madison, Wisconsin.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember hearing from
Madison, Wisconsin. So
there's a Jerry connection there.
There is a Jerry connection.
And it's great running in Madison.
Great running, and it was the same conditions as Rio. It was very humid in both places, so it made a lot of sense. So it's really important to get that training in for sure.
And now we're going to head down to the track, because I do believe Emma is with our race winner, Mason Furlick, 13:25.9.
Mason, 13:25. How are we feeling about it?
Feeling pretty good. Honestly, a win's a win, so I just got to be happy with that. I thought I competed super well. I felt aggressive over the last mile, and just kept on trusting myself and battled Hillary down the last home stretch, which was awesome. So that was a great confidence booster and just a fun race.
Yeah, you look pretty happy when you were finishing. Is this Morgan McDonald said it's a big step forward for you? Oh, yeah, he's on the live stream right now.
Thanks, Morgan. I'm a Badger too. Wow.
Wow. Okay.
That means a lot. Yeah.
So what's next for you? This is a big breakthrough.
Yeah. Yes, breakthrough. I think it's kind of like my compatriot Hobbs Kessler back in Ann Arbor, the high schooler. We're fit. We just haven't really had the chance to race necessarily. So, breakthrough in terms of the result, but right where I think I'm at fitness-wise.
Awesome. What's next for you?
Probably a little bit of rest, honestly. Unless there's something pops up in the next 2 weeks, it's a great opportunity. I'd run everything from a mile to maybe even a 10K. But I do pretty good after good short buildups. I was just in Arizona for 3 weeks and really hitting the track hard, something we didn't really have access to up in Michigan. And so now it's the kind of time to maybe just go back to basics and let that soak in and get ready for the outdoor season.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure everyone's excited to watch you for the rest of the year. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you, Emma.
And now the women's 5K is off. And before we go through the names really quickly, Morgan, I do just want to say thank you. I know that you have to run.
Thank you for having me, guys. I'm going to go out there and support my teammates.
Yeah, all right. Well, we hope to see you back soon. Heal up that ankle. Now in the women's...
Keep the YouTube videos coming. They're gold.
The women's 5K, we have a great race on hand.
And it's presented by Run Goodr. Humble brag by them. They're a 2-time Runner's World Gear of the Year winning brand. Quick disclaimer, they can't make any guarantees that you're going to get faster, but they will promise you that you're going to look gooder. No slip, no bounce while running. Some of my favorite pair of sunglasses. So the race is sponsored by Run Goodr. They're giving you guys a stellar deal, and the promo code is just apt for this occasion. It's use code Texas Heat to get any 2 of their polarized award-winning OG sunglasses for just $20. That's Texas Heat if you visit goodr.com.
All right, real quick to run through the names. Erica Kemp, Rachel Schneider, Weenie Kaladi, Sharon Lokiti, Josette Norris, Emily Lapari, Julie Ann Solly, Maggie Montoya, Emma Coburn, Laura Galvin, Eleanor Purrier, Eleanor Fulton, and Allie Cash. The Olympic trials qualifying time is 15:20. The Olympic standard is 15:10.
Now, again, we've been billing this as the rematch from the Ocean Breeze 2 mile, where we saw Elle Purrier break the Jenny Simpson's American record, but Emma Coburn also got under that previous mark. So the two of them, really strong running. This is a rematch. Let's see how they do in a 5K for Emma. This is her first 5K. She's an 8-time steeplechase national champion. She's run 4:03 for 1,500, 4:23 for the mile, 9:02 for the steeplechase, but she's never run an outdoor 5K. So let's see what she's got in store. Elle Purrier, she's run 14:58 at the World Championships in Doha. That's where her PR is from. And she was third. In order to get there, she was third at the 2019 U.S. Championships. So she's got experience making teams, and now they're right up in the front.
And we do have 2 separate pace lights on the track. I think that we are going to see an assault on sub 15, hopefully by Elle Purrier, and I know Emma Coburn was also planning on going quick with her. And then there is a second group that is thinking more about that Olympic trials qualifying time. The Olympic standard was 15:10, that's 72.8 per lap. So if you think about it, we're going to be seeing some sub-72s here along the way, and they were in very, very good hands up front with 2 team boss gals leading the way. That's Maddie and Corey McGee, both doubling back this race to help out.
Sarah Vaughn right behind them.
So they've brought in plenty of athletes to help bring this pace along. Elle Purrier is in 4th place. We're going to keep an eye on her as they come through 1K in 2:59.
I believe is that Emily Lapari in between the two of them?
Emily Lapari, the former Long Island Mile champion, is
the pride of Roslyn.
Yes, 1 step ahead of Emma Coburn, and behind her, Rachel Schneider, and then Weenie Colati.
Weenie Colati, very, very inspiring story. She was a guest on the CITIUS Mag podcast back in December. I would go and check out that episode, plugging my own podcast on the broadcast, of course. But she competed for Eritrea at the 2014 World Junior Championships, decided not to get back on the plane back home, chasing the American dream, stayed here, went through the high school system out in Virginia, went to New Mexico, was a 2-time NCAA champion, racked up a bunch of All-American honors, and now has dreams of competing for the United States. She's in the process of trying to work that citizenship out before the 2021 U.S. Olympic trials. So it's just kind of a wait-and-see game for her, but she's up there in the mix. Had a great performance at the Sound Running track meet last December.
They are fully strung out, which is what you would expect at a hot pace like this. As they approach 9 laps to go, they still have the 2 rabbits, Maddie and Corey, and I guess Sarah is also a 3rd rabbit. So all hands on deck. These girls are in good hands. Chris, is there anyone that you have your eyes on as a potential upset tonight?
I would say Rachel Schneider would probably be the upset because she just, came off that massive payday at Camel City where she won the mile and the 3K within, I guess it was like an hour or so, netted $12,000 worth of prize money.
Yeah, Chris, that's actually something I want to talk to a little bit about as we come through the mile in 4:50. So, 72s, exactly what we're more or less looking for. Chris, an interesting aspect of these early season races is prize money. In the men's 1,500, we did have $750 in both the men's and women's side, thanks to the Beer Mile podcast. But a lot of these early season races do not have prize money. For a lot of these athletes, this part of the season is about running fast and not necessarily about making money. Now, within their contracts, there would be various time bonuses. Right. Oftentimes, you would get time bonuses for things like the Olympic trials qualifying time, the Olympic standard, maybe sub-15, American records. But at this point in the year, it's a little bit different. I think might be surprising for a lot of fans watching at home to know that they're actually probably operating at a net loss, the majority of these athletes, in paying for their flights and coming here. Many contracts would have that support for travel built in, but for those athletes that don't necessarily have a contract, they're not even here to to make money. They're here to run because they believe in their ability to get the most out of themselves on a night like tonight.
Right, and not necessarily hitting, Olympic standards or Olympic trial standards, but, we've been seeing it in the last few days. A lot of people are coming away from this meet with some nice, PRs and little chunks.
So Rachel Schneider has the Olympic standard in, I believe, the 1500, the 5K, and the 10K. We saw her 10K debut earlier in the year.
Yeah, she won the 10K at the track meet in 31:09. She ran 4:11.73 for the 1500 meters indoors last year before things shut down. But yeah, I mean, her PR is 4:30 for the mile and 8:57 for the 3K. So she's got speed. I mean, she might have some of the best range on the U.S. women's distance running scene.
Yeah, and I think Rachel had a very successful career at Georgetown, but she's an athlete. When she turned professional, now running for Under Armour, has just gotten better and better. And I've heard some of the workouts that she does up in Flagstaff.
Come on, you can't just tell that. You got to give us a little details. What can you spill? Give us a little bit.
I can say that the general theme is that she does an incredible amount of volume on many workouts, often AM and PM. It's something that I think has become a very popular thing for many athletes to do, is to really load up on single days of training. You train hard and then you recover harder. And Rachel's been known to do some really incredible AM PM doubles in the hills of Flagstaff. And that's, we said it yesterday, I'll say it again, fitness is fitness. And her ability to run a 1500 translates apparently to her ability to run a 10K, and I'm confident in the 5K as well.
Now up in front after the Pacers have dropped, it is now Elle Purrier. So she ran 9:10.28 for the 2-mile American record, and along the way clocked a 3K PR of 8:36. In the weird year that was last year, she ran 2:02 for the 800, 4 flat for a 1500 at a little low-key time trial out in Wellesley, Massachusetts. And the year before that was really, really when it kind of, I remember that's when you started to hear the whispers of, like, stop sleeping on Elle. She was third at the U.S. Championships, nearly matched her PR in the 5K semis at Worlds, came back 3 days later, and she ran 14:58, which was 14:58 gets you 11th at the 2019 World Championships because 13 women broke 15, and it took 14:29 to medal.
So after her American record, Ellie ran 9:10, I believe, in the 2-mile at 2 weeks ago at the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix. Everyone's eyeing her. The pressure is on her to be the one to push the pace. We know that she's fit, and others are kind of trying to ride those coattails to their own personal best tonight. And she's a very fascinating story because she's from a very remote town in northern Vermont, just miles from
farm country, and it's like and she's big into milk. Her family's in the milk industry.
Her husband, the sheds she posts on
She's got
Instagram.
a great Instagram. Oh,
yeah, really good follow. And so, she then went and competed at the University of New Hampshire, another smaller school. And, when you're competing in both high school and college for smaller teams, you're not necessarily exposed to the same level of day in and day out competition that some of these athletes like Emma Coburn may have faced at Colorado with the likes of Jenny Simpson at practice. And so, for those of us who watch Ellie, especially later in her career, I remember watching her at the indoor national meet, I believe her senior year, and you see this bib from UNH. And I think for those of us who are paying attention, you really think, wow, there's so much potential there, and she's delivering on it.
Now, the other thing about Elle Purrier is, kind of like we've talked a little bit about, and there was the article on Let's Run not too long ago about seeing the top stars go head to head, like Donovan Brazier and Bryce Hoppel. One matchup I really want to see go head to head is Shelby Houlihan versus Elle Purrier soon.
I have a feeling that's going to happen soon enough. I think that the two best, both very strong, both 1500 and 5K runners. We were talking earlier about those. The changes that happened at the Olympic trials, because those were two athletes that we thought were maybe going to potentially double, and now it just got a lot more difficult with that double, and maybe things are trying to change. I'm sure their coaches are petitioning to have things mix up a little bit, but the best of the sport going against each other is obviously exciting for everyone. As we approach 1 mile to go, 10:30, 10:31. Chris, I didn't think that they were going to be this bunched up. Do you think they were maybe put off by the weather?
Yeah, I mean, that could definitely be it, where they hit the brakes a little bit. But I think we're starting to see a little bit of a move here.
That's Josette Norris.
Wow.
The former Hoya, now training with the Reebok Boston Track Club down in Charlottesville, Virginia.
So another former Hoya in the mix. We were talking about Rachel Schneider earlier. Josette Norris, she's run 4:31 for the mile twice so far this indoor season. Her PR is 15:29 from the Sunset Tour in 2019.
Recently engaged to a name that many may know, Robbie Andrews. And the thing that I heard in my conversation with Robbie earlier this week is that she's fit. She's ready to go.
She started to showcase a little bit of it at the meet out in Winston-Salem at Campbell City Invitational. So she's thrown herself in the mix here.
I think for an athlete like her to really be showing a fearlessness, coming up on the shoulder of Ellie, passing Emma Coburn, you know, that shows that she has that confidence. She's doing something in workouts that is telling her she's ready to reach that next level. And she's not going to just wait for someone else to do the work as they hit 3 laps to go in 11:42.
Listen, as a Marquette alum, I might also be pulling for the Big East over here, where we've got Georgetown in the mix, we've got Villanova with Emily Lopari as well. Some of my favorite memories are watching Emily Lopari, you know, kick and win those big wheels at the Penn Relays.
Also a name that we have not mentioned is Sharon Lucchetti out of Dark Sky, the former Kansas Jayhawk. She
2018 NCAA 10K champion.
The daily training partner with Kaladi. And so, you know, when that person next to you that you're doing every single work with, you're in sync, step in every single workout. And if they're doing it, then you know that you're capable of doing it too. And there's a level of comfort that comes from being next to that familiar body.
This is a little bit surprising here by Josette Norris.
You know, unlike some of the other athletes in the field, I do believe Josette needs the time still. And so she's taking the responsibility. She's not going to let someone else take control of her own destiny here. As we spoke about earlier, it's not about winning tonight, although, you know, personally, that's what I'm invested in. But for these athletes, it's about getting those times as she hits 800 meters to go in about 12:53.
Right. So her PR, again, 15:29 from 2019, and the OTQ mark is 15:20.
So still in reach, but she is going to have to start going. You can't sit around and lollygag much longer, and she is seeing those lights not too far ahead of her. It's fully in reach. If I'm her, I'm ignoring the fact that Ellie is behind her. It's not about that.
We just surpassed 11.3K on the stream. Let's keep this going. Share that link. Tell people, hey, you're not going to want to miss this last lap.
Speaking of sharing, we now have Ellie Purrier taking the lead with 600 meters to go, something that I'm sure Josette is very happy to have. That's a back that she can stare at, take her to the promised land. Weenie Kaladi hot on the tail as well. Rachel Schneider's there. So there's plenty of racing here. At this point, you forget about the clock, you forget about the light, and you just think about beating the person next to you.
Everyone in this front group has spent some time training in Flagstaff in the last couple months. So
with 1 lap to go, that's 14:05 for Ellie Purrier. About 10 meters, 5-10 meters back is Weenie Kaladi, looking very, very strong. It seems as if, you know, unless something happens, that this whole front group is looking at Olympic trials qualifying time of 15:20. It will take a very, very strong close.
Weenie is moving.
Weenie looks good, but Ellie Purrier up front is controlling the race. You can see the coaches and agents on the infield yelling at their athletes, trying to get everything left out of them. With 200 meters to go, it's 14:38. Kaladi, 14:40, just 2 steps behind. Josette, 43. So they're all looking good for the Olympic trials qualifying time, but it's how far under can you get? Ellie Purrier is fully winding up the pace. She looks so comfortable. She's looking nowhere but in front of her. She's quickly rising to the occasion. The knees are bursting through. Arms, all arms, 15:04 with just a few meters left. She's within reach of that Olympic standard, and she gets it 15:08. So not necessarily the time that maybe we set out for at the beginning of the week, but given the conditions, minor adjustments were made, and still a very, very strong final 400, showing that, in my opinion, she has a lot of international potential in the 5K.
We'll wait for the results to populate on the screen after we get a couple more women across the finish line. Emily Lopari charging right now. A little bit of a tough final 2K for her.
If there's one thing we know about Emily is that she can bounce back very, very strong. And she was going for it tonight. She was fearless up front early in the race.
Courier 15:08, Kaladi 15:10, I believe that was. We're almost.
Norris 15:19, holding on to get under that Olympic trials qualifying time.
So your top 3 go under the OTQ mark. So for Gisette Norris, she lowers her PR from 15:29 to 15:19, right? So 10 seconds.
I think as we look at these results, it's obvious that there is a lot of humidity in the air. And I think that, you know, as Morgan was saying, you can kind of fake it for a 5K, but these 10Ks that we have coming up, it's going to be a major factor, I think, and is probably going to attribute to some adjustment in the pace early on like we did see in the 5Ks.
And I believe we just set a new world leading time in the outdoor 5K.
Norris, 15:19.
Ellie with a very successful winter season. You know, I think after that 2 mile, it's difficult to know how you come off something like that. It didn't seem like she was running with the same aggression that we maybe were expecting, but first off, the emotion after running a 9:10 2 mile, I'm sure she didn't sleep much that next night. She was excited, and you don't necessarily know what the workouts look like. And, you know, obviously she was able to finish up very, very strong here tonight, but at some point in the middle, she decided that it wasn't worth being the one to push the pace.
Now, a couple of people might be wondering, oh, is she signing autographs right now? No, that's not autographs. That is the people at USADA doing their job. That's right, we got drug testing at this meet. You know, when you start to look at the start list and see like, oh wow, we got quite a bit of really, really good runners all descending upon one place. Let's get a couple drug tests in.
Yeah, you know, especially at races like this when people are going for personal bests and qualifying times and standards, it's important to dot your I's and cross your T's and make sure that everything is accounted for. And so props to the whole crew for making sure that USADA was here tonight, well aware of what's happening, and make sure that all of these times will be certified.
And here's Elle just really pulling away. You can see Wayne Nicolati in the distance. Also, she was closing really hard in the first 200 of that last lap, and then, but Purrier just threw the hammer down.
I'm sure Coach Mark Coogan is happy with that performance, and he
was happy with our announcing last night. I got a nice little note from him.
It's not about us, Chris. And I believe down trackside, we're going to have the opportunity to speak with Ellie now. Emma, down to you.
Ellie, 15:08. What was the goal going into today's race?
The goal was just to get a good hard run in and compete to win.
Well, you certainly did that. How was today coming off that American record in the 2 mile?
It was pretty good. It's like, you know, a pretty big gap in between, so I feel like I had time to go home and settle in and rest up a little bit, but definitely a different atmosphere today.
Yeah, does this give you confidence going into the rest of the season? I mean, there was a stacked field tonight. I would say it's one of the biggest races this weekend. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it definitely gives me confidence. It's always great to get a little bit more experience running, especially in a tactical race, because, you know, that's kind of what the championship races will be like. So, yeah, it definitely gives me a little bit of confidence.
What do you think it's going to take for the Olympic team in the 5K?
You know, American women distance running is just, you know, at an all-time high, and so I think it's going to take a lot of strength to make the team in the 5K.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be rooting for you for the rest of the year, so great job tonight.
Thank you.
Back to you guys. Good job.
All right, so we've got a sponsor coming up later on in the night, but we wanted to take this opportunity to give them a little bit of airtime here and hear from the good folks over at ElliptiGo.
expert craftsmanship. Big thanks to ElliptiGo for stepping up and sponsoring this race. I know personally I've used the ElliptiGo as a form of cross-training in my career. Very much feels like running, you know, and you're able to break up the monotony of being indoors on the bike or in the pool and able to go out and see the world. You always get a lot of looks and waves from the community. Lots of questions about what it is and where they can get theirs.
Yeah, I see the ElliptiGo often in Central Park. I've ridden one on them a couple times. I actually, you know, being the young kid that I am, I don't really get hurt too often, and so I haven't used it too much or had to cross-train a bunch, but love seeing them around. Jeff Caron, who sponsored the race yesterday, big supporter, has been working with them for quite a bit of time, and so has done a great job of getting them involved in the sport. I always find it really fun to follow along when they do like the ElliptiGo World Championships, and it's just like a huge climb. I believe it's out in California. Molly Seidel did it last year, and so yeah, ElliptiGo's doing great things within the sport to, you know, keep some of these top athletes, you know, healthy when they can't you know, run at all times.
Yeah, I think especially in some of these longer distance events, you know, you're running 100+ miles a week to prepare for a 5 and 10K, and so obviously there are injuries that happen along the way. And the ability to obviously minimize that, but also maximize your fitness while maybe sidelined from an injury, it makes a big difference. And you have this idea at the start of the year. You get out the calendar, you mark it up, and you think you know exactly what you're going to do, and everything's going to go perfectly according to plan. And what happens, especially during the Olympic year, you get very excited, and at points you might have to take a week off. It's unfortunately a part of the sport that many have dealt with, and the ability to be prepared for that, both mentally but then physically with tools like the ElliptiGo, makes a huge difference in your ability to bounce back once it is time to reintroduce yourself to land running.
So we've got the men's 10K coming up, presented by the Hanson's Running Stores. The Keith and Kevin Hansen very graciously stepped up when we first came up with the concept for this meet, although there aren't Hanson's Brooks athletes here today because they're at Atlanta Motor Speedway for the Atlanta Track Club's Big Half Marathon and America's Marathon weekend. They were just like, you know what, we love what Trials of Miles is doing, and we wanted to support it. So big thanks to Keith and Kevin for stepping up. And you guys check out what the Hanson's Brooks team does tomorrow morning in that half. Natasha Rogers is in it. I believe this might be her first half marathon since she won like a U.S. title a couple years back. So stay tuned for more on that. But another quick thing I wanted to mention is that it is Dave Alfano's birthday. Dave Alfano is the meet director for here. He's been running the show behind the scenes. One of the nicest guys. He's all over the place. He probably won't even hear this right now because he's working the PA system on the phone with, you know, agents and coaches and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, these last 2 days have been made possible by Cooper Knowlton and Dave Alfano. So let's give it up for Dave in the YouTube chat. So big ups to Dave. Let's get some happy birthdays for Dave.
You know, Dave he's a PT in New York City at Finish Line.
There he is. There's Dave right there.
There he is. And so, you know, he's just a fan of the sport, and he saw this as an opportunity for him to be able to step up and give back and create opportunities, and just one of the good guys in the sport. And because of his willingness to put on an event like this, you have athletes flying in from all over the country, many international athletes as well, who now have an opportunity just because one guy decided, I guess 2 guys decided that they wanted to help.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a story, and we'll touch on it, I guess, like throughout this 10K that's coming.
There is time to talk in a 10K.
First, let's run through the field.
Do you want this one, Chris?
No, you can take this one.
All right.
Because I saw some really tough names.
Sam Chalinga, John Renwecki, Connor Winter, Reed Fisher, Rory Linkletter, Tom Anderson, Arsen Gilrell, Dylan Maggard, CK Tume Weldilbanos.
Got it.
Benjamin Eidenschink, Zuhair Talby, Fred Huxham, Mark Parrish. If we messed up anyone's name, I'm extremely sorry. The Olympic trials qualifying time is 28 minutes. The Olympic standard is 27:28. And the lights are being set for 13:57, which is 66.9 a lap.
Wow. The world leading time right now, 27:10, run by Mark Scott just last week.
Shocked we don't see Frank Lara in here, but
I know, right?
We do see 3 rabbits. I believe the third on the back is Don Cabral. So that would mean our actual race leader is John Rewecki from Under Armour.
Recently, I believe, just signed with Under Armour.
Yeah, it's great to see, you know, opportunities springing up for athletes during an Olympic year. You know, things got shooken up a bit with 2020, which is often the contract year for a lot of athletes. Yeah. The Olympics would be it. And so budget-wise and everything, things change at the end of each year as a new one begins. And it's good to see that a lot of athletes have that support behind them because, as we were saying earlier, it's not cheap to be able to fly around the country chasing opportunities.
Yeah, so in the very weird year that was 2020, John made the most of it with PRs in both the 5K and the 10K. He ran 13:44:28 for the 5K in Tennessee, and then bounced back and ran 28:15:65 at the track meet later on in the year in December.
I actually did some running with John last year in Scottsdale. He was working with Corey Leslie out of Arizona State, and so I was able to hop in some workouts with him together and go for some runs. And he's a strong runner, someone who's tall and a very good wind blocker.
So that's kind of something people might be wondering is you were a miler 15 guy. So where do you meet in the middle when it comes to doing workouts with him?
Yeah, well, you know, I think that's something that would maybe be interesting to a lot of people to know that early in the season especially, you're doing kind of general fitness stuff. You're doing a lot of threshold work, a lot of tempo stuff, and you're not necessarily specializing in running race pace or faster during the winter months. You're getting that base in, and you're getting a lot of miles, and with that comes the opportunity to overlap with a lot of athletes in different events. And there's always a willingness and a camaraderie amongst professional athletes to be willing to work out together to maybe, you know, my coach said I had 10 800s. Your coach said that you had 8 1Ks. You know, let's do 5 and 5 or whatever the math works out to. And so you show up, and it's just easier to do it with people, especially in these training camps early in the season.
Looks like about 3:19-ish for that.
So they appear to be just a step ahead of the lights, perfectly paced right now. That's making it very, very easy for them. This is going to be a long 28 minutes for these athletes, and this part of the race is probably the most fun because you're feeling quite good just a few laps in. So Chris, you think after watching the women in the 5K that there is any adjustment? It appears as if they're not. They're still sticking to the plan and running those 66.9s as the lights were prescribed.
No, that's what it looks like right now. And I mean, we've got this field immediately strung out. I wanted to highlight a couple guys in this one, and mainly one of the biggest people that people are probably like that we were scratching our heads about as to like where could he be when it comes to his fitness right now, and that's Sam Shalenga, because his personal best is 27:08:39, set more than a decade ago. He ran that PR in the famous Chris Zielinski race, where he finished 3rd overall. It was Chris Zielinski, Galen Rupp, Sam Shalenga. Now, Sam is 36 years old right now. Last year, or 2 years ago, he kind of said he was retired, and then all of a sudden last year decides to run a 61:52 for the half marathon and qualifies for the U.S. Olympic Marathon Trials. And you're like, okay, like, Kyle, you've been retired. You're not capable of running a 61-minute half marathon right now.
Okay, don't say what I am and what I'm not capable of.
So he does that, and then comes back to the trials, runs 2:15:04 for 21st place, and now he's giving it a shot here. He's in the U.S. Army.
Yeah, I mean, James McCurdy coached him for 8 weeks leading into that 61:52. So that says a couple things to me.
8 weeks?
Yeah, an 8-week build-up. That says a couple things to me. That says that there's old man strength, and it is well and it is alive in Sam Shalenga, the ability to do that, and then also the talent level is through the roof. And, you know, that's no surprise. If you had to compete against him in college while he was at Liberty, you would know that there was plenty of talent in those legs.
Started off at Fairleigh Dickinson. that's a little fun fact. It's like, where did Sam Shalenga get his start in the NCAA? Fairleigh Dickinson.
I remember one year in Indiana, I believe it was at pre-nationals in Terre Haute, that he took the first 1K out in 2:31 in a 10K cross-country race on grass. So a fearless runner, arguably reckless, except for the fact that he held on to win by quite a bit, if I remember properly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if we poured over the results of that 2010 Peyton Jordan 10K, most of the field, aside from Galen, is probably retired.
Yeah, but you know what, that's interesting because, you know, Sam was obviously very young at that time, and for an athlete to be so competitive at a 10K at a young age, it generally requires many, many miles and years. You know, you generally expect an athlete to thrive in the 1500 and 5K in college when compared to the international level. And as you know, obviously he was very competitive at a very young age. He is quite the aerobic engine. I'm excited to see what he does when he returns to the roads eventually and maybe has even longer build-up leading into races.
Just got a text from Jason Suarez who wanted to thank me for the FDU, like mentioned on the broadcast.
Yeah, very nice.
Just pandering to just some friends.
So we still have all three rabbits in the race as the field is well strung out behind. They are well within range of that light, just a step behind. So you know that they're in it. 66.9 is what that's set for, 13:57s. And, you know, I've seen the occasional athlete stay in a race in a 10K.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, maybe we see something tonight like that. I could see a Don Cabral deciding to stay
right now
in.
the leading pacer is Alex Monroe. D2 love. Shout out to all the D2 athletes in the chat right now.
And so as this race continues to unfold, I guess, Chris, is there any athlete that maybe we should be looking at that is under the radar, someone who isn't necessarily a household name that maybe those watching on the stream, 8,500 people right now sticking around with us for this 10K, maybe anyone that isn't a household name right now that maybe is in the process of becoming one?
So I think, well, so I'm curious to see what Reed Fisher does. I mean, he's a little bit more of a popular pick. I wouldn't say he's like very under the radar because of his personal best in both, you know, the half marathon. He fell at the U.S. Olympic marathon trials. We saw him all bloodied up. He has some pretty sick photos from that, from the trials in Atlanta. So didn't have the race that he wanted there. And so now he's bouncing back, trying to, you know, keep the Olympic dream hopes alive on the track. So he's got a 28:12 personal best from the track meet back in December. And so it's good to see, you know, the man out of Drake in the mix here.
Someone that I want to keep an eye on tonight is Arson Gilrell. He ran for my former teammate, Patrick McGregor at Samford, is now being coached by Kevin Androsic out of Thunder Road Running here in Austin. He was an All-American in college. He's French, and so he's looking to make that very good, Chris. And so he'll be obviously looking to make that Olympic team. And again, that's a time of 27:28. And maybe this is the best time to really dive into the whole ranking system?
Yeah, we've got plenty of time to do so. So how you tried to flip the tables on me by asking me how does someone make the Spain Olympic team? How does someone make the French Olympic team, Kyle?
Yes, so the easiest thing that an athlete can do is obviously run the Olympic standard.
Yes.
The other option is the world ranking list, and basically there's a formula out there based off of how competitive a race is, what place you finished in, and how fast of a time you ran on the scoring tables. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And there's an incentive then to obviously run fast. There's obviously an incentive to win races. But then the big incentive is to go to the big races where points are worth more. So, you know, the Olympics level races are worth a little bit more. You get more points for finishing in the top group. Then as you work your way down, you know, you have the Diamond Leagues and the World Challenges, various races across the world are assigned different values. And every performance that you do is assigned a point value according to this formula. Now, in the 800, the 1500, everything below 1500 meters, you need 5 different races in that event, and neighboring events often count. Those 5 top performances get averaged together for your point value, and that applies to your ranking. Now in the 10K, because it's a 10K, you actually only need 2 times, and the 5K would also count. So it's either, you know, your best 5K time, your best 10K time, assign you a point ranking, and then you need to be in the top 27 in the world in order to qualify. Now, the final aspect of this is that athletes who have made the team, like multiple, like athletes from the same federation, so you can't have 4 Kenyans in front of you, because obviously only 3 can compete at the Olympics.
So that removes
so
people
you
ahead
remove
of
them,
and so other people move up.
So there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
The simplest thing to do is run 27-28. But if you
so easy. Why don't more people do it?
If you can't do that, then running a good 5K and running a good 10K and getting as many points as possible, ideally at a big time race, really will help your argument.
And that also, you know, leads into sometimes the selection process when it comes to smaller countries, and when you see like that their track and field team is consist of 1 athlete. That's usually how they end up making it. It's through that rankings.
So as we head back looking at the track, we now have just 1 rabbit. That is Don Cabral, and behind him is Zuhair Talib out of Oklahoma City University, the JUCO.
So he's I believe, lives and trains here in Texas, because I saw a couple results, not in Austin or Houston, but somewhere in the Texas area earlier this year. He is 25 years old. He won a silver medal in 2015 at the World University Games in the 5,000. So his PR is from 28:02.89 from the 2018 Portland Track Festival.
So they've been clicking off 67s pretty consistently here. So that time of 28 flat, still very much in reach. We're going to have the opportunity to see what they are for 5K very soon. Don is really putting himself out there. They're willing to work very, very hard to, he's willing to work very hard for Zuhair and help him out as much as he can.
So you think the likelihood of Don staying in is low at this point?
I would say that Don doesn't ever look fresh, but he doesn't necessarily look super fresh right now, and I think he's just trying to get to that 5K and do as much as he can to help them out.
Oh, he's going to the arms. You could tell from the face.
Now I'm now looking to see where they are in relation to the light. It appears that they're about 10, 15 meters back, so still very much in range. And Chris, do we have a personal best for Zuhair?
Yeah, it's 28:02 from the 2018 Portland Track Festival.
Okay, so he's basically perfectly on pace for that, because those lights are set for 13:57. So as they approach 5K, they're going to be more or less perfect. As Don looks over his shoulder, starts to swing out into lane 2. Zuhair has a long way to go, but he hits 5K in 14 flat.
So he also ran at Oklahoma City University, or at least I have found a athletic page profile from him.
He looks
as a
very
sophomore.
strong right now. He looks like he's able to go this distance. I think out of Morocco, if there's someone who's going to be able to handle this heat and humidity a little bit better, it might be him. As they approach now 12 laps to go in 14:34.
He's got a half marathon personal best of 62.
I'm trying to get a camera on who is back in second place there, as we can hopefully identify him, as he also looks very strong, but about 50 meters behind. They are fully strung around the track at this point. This race is wide open. I have a feeling that we may see some lapped athletes later in the race, Chris, as we approach 5,400, and that was a 67.1, so he is very consistent right now.
And we've got second place there on your screen.
I missed it, Chris. Were you able to identify who that was?
No, I flashed on the screen as I was looking up a little bit more information on Zuhair.
So the music is the vibes tonight, as there are not many fans on the track. This would be a little bit easier at the beer hall maybe in the UK when they do the night of the races.
There's your second place runner. Trying to get a hip number on him. We'll see it on the turn, possibly. I did find Zuhair's Instagram, and his most recent post from 4 days ago has a pretty cool caption. It says, "Doing volume can make you resist fatigue, but doesn't make you faster. Speed workouts do."
Running by himself.
Little bit of knowledge being dropped there.
I believe that's actually, I'm going to butcher this name, but Sige Tume Wilabanos, actually, right there, about 50 meters back, looking strong, looking around, hopefully able to identify someone to come and help out at this point in the race. You're really looking for friends out there because it's a long, lonely run. So Chris, 10K opportunities domestically right now. You know, we were speaking earlier about how Peyton Jordan is generally the main opportunity for athletes in the United States to get out there and run fast. California, very predictable weather, often a nice, cool, low 50 degrees in Palo Alto. What are going to be the opportunities this year, especially as, you know...
So it's a bit of a head scratcher because, you know, when some of these meets are hosted on college campuses, the colleges have really started to limit, you know, what public events that they're holding. Like Penn Relays, another place that typically has, you know, a 10K or two on their Friday night of competition, Friday or Thursday night of competition. We just don't know what that's going to be, what scale they're going to be able to host events. So this is a 10K here tonight. There might be a couple more coming up on the West Coast. But you have to keep your eyes peeled to whatever opportunities pop up. And, you know, yes, we might have been dealt here with a little bit of humidity, but if the weather cooperates, that's the one added factor that you kind of need to line up.
As we approach 9 laps to go, 18 flat, that it was a 69.1, so starting to fall off that pace a little bit. You know, as the number falls and you get within a mile, you're able to buckle up a little bit more. But this, as we were speaking to Morgan, this is kind of like that 3 to 4K range in a 10K where you just have to trust your fitness and know that you're going to still have it in those final laps.
So Zuhair is trying to show off over here for the NAIA schools.
You know, I think there's this assumption that you have to go Division I if you want to be an elite athlete or if you want to be a professional runner. But athletes like Zuhair, I would say, would do quite well at the NCAA championships with fitness like this. That'll take you where you need to be. So, Chris, is there anything about the international channels that send athletes to the JUCO system as opposed to maybe D1? You know, is there more opportunities? Because I know that as international athletes, you often still have to take those tests in order to get into Division I schools, and there's obstacles in the way. Is JUCO maybe the way to go for some athletes to come get recognized?
Yeah, so I mean, we've seen that over the years, especially, you know, on the distance in the distance running events. You know, you see it a lot in the sprints too, where some very prominent sprinters start off at a small school and then go on to run at the Division I level. I'm trying to even think. I believe Tyreek Hill, before he became a Kansas City's chief star, did that. He was in the JUCO system for a bit, then ran at Oklahoma State. But for international athletes, it is very interesting to see because that, you know, some of that has also been put on pause, and the recruiting has gotten a little bit tougher due to the pandemic. But you would see it a lot with, you know, East African runners going to the JUCO system first and then transferring into Division I schools.
So Zuhair has 100 meters on second place. And you see really, really talented athletes slowly coming into vision for him right now. And it's that ability to handle the heat and humidity that is part of the reason, in addition to obviously having great fitness, that is allowing him to do so well as he approaches 7 laps to go in 2017. That 400 meters was 68.
Wow. So you know what's also really interesting to me is just like who's paying attention to this. Like this is a big opportunity for him to kind of show out and get some possible attention from another school. I know one person who's probably tuned into this and watching this is Isaac Wood, the Wood Report. He's the cross country guru who has his own website. Visit thewoodreport.com, and he's got his projections that he does for NCAA cross country, whether it's your conference meet. It's fairly interesting to see how the computer puts out these projections and these results as to how people are going to perform. But Isaac goes in and assigns numbers and stats to all these people, and so it's interesting. He sometimes has to dig to find those JUCO schools and those NAIA schools to see how they would stack up against the Division I level, and so very interesting. It's a possible scouting opportunity for him.
Yeah, I think that there's people popping up right now all over the country. There is obviously a lull in action, and for athletes like Zuhair, who probably were able to put in the miles in the past year during this pandemic, as he now runs through the line with 6 laps to go, a little bit slower of a lap. That was a 70. This is really going to be the part of the race where that potential personal best is either going to be still within reach and just a kick away, or is it going to slowly fall out of sight?
I kind of want to see how Sam Shalenga, who's crossing, he's in 3rd place right now in that bright orange singlet. He's looking pretty strong right now. So if we get a camera, the Sam Cam, as I'll call it, on Sam Shalenga, who's currently in 3rd place, really closing the gap on 2nd with a little bit of racing left. I don't know. This race isn't over yet. We'll see if we can get the Sam Cam going.
That orange singlet of Sam Shalenga is slowly moving up on Sige. And the opportunity then to have
he's looking at his watch. That's Sam right there, chipping away.
If he comes up and all of a sudden you have 2 guys working together, you're going to be stronger. There's strength in numbers, as Zuhair is now approaching, I believe, 5 laps to go. 22:36, and that was a 68. So Coach may have just yelled that was a 70, and he immediately got back on it.
He's about to pass Rory Linkletter out in lane 2.
A very courteous move of moving into lane 2.
Those NAZ guys, nice people.
And so something that I was thinking about earlier today was how athletes are approaching this long season.
Due to the humidity, we just kind of caught on to this, half the field has dropped out.
All right, so 13 has dwindled down to about 6 or 7. There's only 6 athletes left. So, we had tried to tell everyone at home earlier just how humid it was. I know Morgan was in here wearing a jacket.
Yeah.
A nice thick winter coat, and I would say that was unnecessary because it is warm here, and 7 guys dropping out. Obviously an indicator with still, a little over a mile to go.
Rory is one of those guys, you can see him right there. He's going to toughen it out, I think. He did participate in NAZ Elite's attempt to do the 1-hour run, and 1 hour, this will be half the time.
So up front, Zuhair, 23:46 with 1 mile to go.
And that was a 79.69. Oh, 69.
And so, when you look at that time, what it says to me is you're going to need something very, very special right now in order to get under his personal best of 28:02. But speaking of the rankings earlier, that 2nd performance is huge, and having a strong average. It's one thing to run a 28:02 one time, but you'll have to do it twice to really maximize the number of points. However, I would imagine that in order to actually qualify for the Olympics, that you're going to need something a little bit more into the 27 range. But he looks strong. His arm carriage is great. His turnover is good. He's got, I think, some super spikes on, and maybe at this point in the race, he's gonna use that extra muscular skeletal system that would normally have been fatigued in years past, now feeling a little bit fresher.
Has there ever been a situation, I've never watched a race, where the guy in the lead is just suffering so much and winning and just drops out, because we're not going to see that happen here tonight, but you just never know.
Yeah, so he did just hit 3 laps to go, 24:54. That was a 68. So it seems like he's back on it. He's coming up to 9K. He's looking good. I know we were talking about earlier whether there was some chance that he can get caught. I don't think he's getting caught. He looks strong.
Yeah, he's got a huge lead now on Sam Chalango. And Sam is also, I think your top 3 might be sealed.
So that is 25:29 with 1K to go. So something, Chris, that I was thinking about tonight was, how do you approach this training for a long year as a 10K athlete? You know, there's kind of 2 mindsets that a lot of coaches bring. You think about the whole year as one very long build-up, and you're looking towards the summer, and this is just one part of getting there. And then there's this mentality of training for the indoor season, or in this case, I guess the outdoor season, but the winter season, and trying to give it your all, and then you kind of hit the reset button. You take a week or 2 off, and you build back in and start up again.
The timeline for this year is just so weird, because you just don't know when you can throw those 2 weeks.
So that was another 68, and he has 2 laps to go. He's 68s have become, you know, like routine now, and the question is, can he find that other gear? It could be a little bit hard. You fall into this rhythm, 68, 68, 68. The opportunity to then change your gait a little bit, have to get up on your toes. Sometimes you go to find it and it's not there.
I'm curious, I know you never ran a 10K on the track, but mentally in a race as long as this, when would you think that it's almost over?
I would hope that Zuhair, with just over 500 meters left, feels that way, that it's almost over. You can see now his form has completely shifted. He looks very, very strong. He's coming up. He sees the clock. Finally, what started at 25 laps to go is down to 1. And he has dominated this performance. You know, I think we were saying in the 5K that it might be 6-7 seconds a mile difference of running in this versus perfect conditions, as he runs another 65 with 1 lap to go. Doing it over 10K, it's only even more difficult. So, you know, for me, when I'm looking at this performance from Zuhair, I'm thinking, you know, on a perfect night, with help from other athletes, in which you don't have to do all the work all on your own, what is he actually capable of? Yeah. I would say quite a bit. So with 200 meters to go, we're looking at 27:41 on the clock. So he's going to be just outside his personal best of 28:02, but I would say Zuhair has a lot of fans right now in the chat. People are acknowledging how tough of a run this is, as over half this field has dropped out. One man has stood out. He is the most dominant race of the night. Zuhair, his arms are pumping, getting him into the final straightaway. He looks fantastic. He sees the clock. Very, very valiant performance, 28:12, worthy of the applause. I hope that they give it up to him in the group chat, because Zuhair very much deserves our praise.
Oklahoma City University, we're rapping NAIA love.
We'll see what his watch says compared to ours, and if we could actually get a camera on second place with 100 meters to go. Sia is looking good. He has a little bit of a second wind. He'll come into your frame very quickly, crossing the finish line. A very tough run for him. He beat a lot of very, very strong runners tonight. 28:46.
And the Sam Cam. Ooh, Sam is going to have to, I don't know if he sees the guy right behind him.
Sam Chalango just dipping under 29 minutes.
It was so close. And what do we say? Rory Linkletter's going to toughen this thing out.
You know, when you've made it this far, you just do what you can, you get in, and honestly, it comes down to
1 more lap to go.
It's a point of pride. You're 24 laps in. I know it hurts, but he'll be back, as many of these athletes will. This was unusually humid conditions tonight. Not the easiest thing to run in. You know, I would have preferred to be in a 1500 than a 10K when it's 72 degrees and humid.
So the final time,
I believe was 28:12 was the final time for the athletes, as we see Dylan Maggard on our screen.
We meant to give a little bit more love to Dylan Maggard on the broadcast when we initially left him off our graphic that we teased on Instagram with the final field. So apologies for that, Dylan.
29:48.
28:12 was the winning time.
Zuhair Talbi out of Oklahoma City University. A heroic run, well worthy of our praise. Hopefully gets a few followers on Instagram out of this. Worth following the journey. It's definitely someone who we want to watch in future opportunities. And I have word that Emma is with him trackside to you.
Zuhair, a dominant win. What was the strategy going into this race?
The goal was to break the 28, but I find myself after the 5K alone, so it was hard to keep up the same pace. But
it's pretty humid out here. Do you think that, were you going into it like knowing that it was going to be humid, or were you kind of surprised by the conditions out here today?
I knew it's gonna be humid, but I wanna focus just in the pace. Yeah, so.
You have nationals on Wednesday? I'm hearing through my earpiece.
On Thursday.
Oh, on Thursday. How are you gonna prep for it?
I think I'm ready for national. I need just to recover a little bit from this 10K, and I will be ready to go for it.
That's a quick turnaround. What are you gonna do? Like, what's your recovery tips?
Easy runs, some stride. That's it.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Great job tonight, and good luck on Thursday.
Thank you so much.
Can you imagine having to bounce back from that?
Unreal. All right, so we did it last night. We're going to do it again for those who are tuning in just for the first time. We've got an exclusive look at a time and a place, and actually we're going to be giving away 5 tickets to a time and a place. All you got to do is follow the Instagram account. It's a time and a place _film. The directors, Ryan Sterner and Stephen Kirsch, will choose who they give those tickets away to, but we're going to give you guys a first look. Here are the first 90 seconds of the movie.
I can't see anything. I mean, I'm sitting here 5 deep. Let's go. 25 seconds to Sally. 25 seconds to Sally. Let's attack. Let's attack. Sally, let's attack. Let's go. Finish this off, Bella. Good job. I'm at 800 to go. You'll see me next to the 800 meter to finish line. I'm at 800 to go. Yep.
I get chills every single time I watch that.
How many times have you watched that, Chris?
I've seen the movie 4 times. I've seen that clip in particular about 20. So again, follow a time and a place _film on Instagram. They're going to be giving away 5 tickets right now. So go, get your tickets, and don't miss a screening tomorrow. It's one of the few screenings that we're going to have for now. So check it out. And in that film, you know, we got a sneak peek right there of seeing Alfie and Tulia make the team. But actually, all 3 of the women who made the U.S. Olympic Marathon team have used an ElliptiGo. And so now, this next race is brought to you by ElliptiGo. I'm really pumped to see the field that we've assembled here. And one person we've got right here on the screen right now is
Andrea Limon
from last night. Here's a look from last night, her really hard close to win the 5K. This kick was just unreal. Leah Fallon did a lot of the leading in the race, but didn't see this one coming.
We were out on Town Lake this morning, and I ran into Leo Manzano, who has been working with her. He's very excited about the performance, and he's now representing and working with a lot of the Central American athletes and creating opportunities for them. And he was especially excited about Andrea Limon. She's obviously a super accomplished athlete on the roads, and to see her do so well in the 5K, it's showing a level of range. And I would say that based off of her experience and her ability to do the half and the full so well, that she'll be able to bounce back here tonight for a good 10K.
And then, like she told us last night when she spoke with Emma on the sidelines, is that her hope is to run the marathon for Mexico at the Olympics this summer. So do we want to run through this field? This one should be very, very exciting.
As the athletes line up in the women's 10K, we have Constance Klostenhalfen, Ali Kiefer, Katrina Coogan, Emily Durgan, Sarah Pagano, Risper Gesabwa, Lindsay Flanagan, Diane Nakuri, Lanny Marchant, McKenna Morley, Hannah Everson, Kiera D'Amato, Baruch Tait DeGeffa, and Andrea Limon.
So we've the OTQ is 32:25, and the Tokyo target is 31:25. The world leading time right now is 30:47:42 by Elise Cranny of the Bowerman Track Club, which that might be a tall order here with the conditions.
We've seen what's happened in the other distance races tonight. It's been difficult to negative split. And so I'm interested to see if these athletes have any level of adjustment now. You see up front, Coco.
We'll go with Coco just to put an ease at the pronunciation. She goes by Coco too on her Instagram.
The German athlete up front, a late entry into the race. I would say one of the favorites, but also on the screen to her right in the new Nike kit is Kiera D'Amato.
Yeah, so Kiera D'Amato probably has a lot of fans in the chat right now. I know she shared the link to this. Kiera had the breakout year of 2020. So her story is just remarkable because she ran at American University. She raced for American University from 2002 to 2006. She was a 4-time All-American, 11-time Patriot League champion. And then, after running in college, she experienced what a lot of people sometimes experience. Sometimes it's a little bit of burnout. Took a decade off to hobby jog is how she described it. And then decided to get back into more serious training around 2016, 2017. Called up Coach Scott Rasco, who used to coach Alan Webb, and has started to really get back into the sport, get really serious into training. She ran 2:34 at the Berlin Marathon in 2019, and then that's when really she started to come onto our radar when she broke out at the 2020 U.S. Olympic Marathon Trials, where she ran a personal best. Again, the course in Atlanta was really hilly, it was really windy, not ideal conditions for a PR, but still she ran 2:34.24 to place 15th, big PR for her. And then it's when the pandemic hits, and when everyone else kind of is in a flux as to what am I going to do about racing and that kind of stuff, a lot of people turn to time trialing and virtual races of sorts. And Kiera ran, I believe it was 15:15 for a solo 5K.
And it was kind of out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere.
Who is this? What is going on?
Right, and then you obviously get the headline of the 36-year-old full-time real estate agent who just ran 15:15 for the 5K, and you're scratching your head was the track short? Did she go off of one of my first reaction was did she just go off of her Strava where it's oh, I hit 3.1,
a very high school JV move,
and not actually run the 12.5 laps? But no, there was video of it. She did it. And now, she's, and then the big one, and then she started winning pro races throughout the summer, getting more and more attention. Eventually broke an American record in the 10 mile in the fall, and all led up to it was kind of you were waiting to see if the Kira D'Amato story was too good to be true when she would finally go up against the top marathoners in the country at the Marathon Project, and nope, she lived up to it, ran 2:22.56 at the Marathon Project to finish second behind Sarah Hall. And what a year that was.
I know, it makes, I'm sure a lot of people who have hung up their spikes and took to hobby jogging for a few years thinking like, maybe I'm the next Kira D'Amato. She ended up soloing a 15:04 5K at some point in the spring.
Yeah.
And this is a new kit for her.
Yeah.
She had done all of that, all those amazing performances. She was wearing Nike, and I know it was very important to her to continue to wear something that she really believes in and was a part of her past performances. And to see her now in that Nike kit it's a good look on her, as she's sitting right behind the rabbit running really confidently. And I think when you think a year ago that she would be up front with Coco, a lot of people would be like, who do you mean? Well, no way, Coco always runs by herself up front.
She's a world champion, what do you mean? Yeah, so it's really interesting to see.
So they just hit the 1 mile in about 4:59. They've gone 73s and 75s alternating. Tonight, the pace that they're looking for is essentially 74 mid, so that will get it done. Hopefully they don't yo-yo too much and they can fall into a nice rhythm here and trust this rabbit to take them as long as possible and then work together later on.
So you, when we taped our podcast 2 days ago, were very curious as to how is Kira D'Amato going to respond after doing a pretty hard workout by all things considered. Earlier in the week, it was Wednesday that you ran it?
Yeah, so, first off, if you're not following her on Strava, she's a must follow. Always with a very witty title to every single run and workout that she does. But on Wednesday, her pre-meet race, and I can do this, I think, off memory.
You've talked about it enough. I've heard you talk about this 6 times to a bunch of different people.
And the reason I talk about it is because it's harder than anything I would do pre-meet. And in fairness, she's got a much faster marathon PR than me, so she can probably handle a little bit more. But she ran 1K in 2:59, I think then a 1K in 2:56, then a 2K in 6:04. I believe the mile's 4:49 there. Then she came back and ran a 4:44 mile, and then an 800 in 2:17. And she did all of this off of 2.5 minutes rest. And that's the tune-up race to taper leading into a 10K. So if that gives some indication of the sort of fitness that she's in and what the other workouts that she's done looks like, we're ready for a good show right now.
She commented on our Instagram post when we posted the podcast, and she did laugh when I did mention that you can't stop talking about that workout.
As a diehard track nerd, I'm a sucker for
the good Strava flex. But that's not even a flex. That you're just did you just blow your race?
It's what she did, and but it's a fun way to follow the sport. You obviously can follow along on Twitter and Instagram, but the Strava is a behind-the-scenes look, and you get a better idea of what goes into these performances that we see.
Now for Constance Klosterhalfen, who's right there in second place behind the pacer. She comes in as the favorite because of her just world-class credentials. She's a world championship bronze medalist in the 5K, an 8-time German national champion. She ran a 10K actually though on the road in 2016. So if you're looking for a PR of sorts, and then it would be 32:24. Her 5K PR is 14:26 run in Berlin in August 2019. That was in the lead up to that bronze medal run. So it's just proven herself. She's one of the best in the world for 5K, and she's run under 14:30 3 times in her career. And before that, the pandemic did shut things down. She did clock a 4:17.26 for second place at the Millrose Games when she finished behind Al Purrier.
And so just that last lap was 75 seconds. So they're consistent. They're now 100 meters to go until they're 18 laps. So they have had a very capable rabbit up front, something that you need in a 10K. It really makes it so much easier. You see some of the success that the Bowerman Track Club has had in their time trials, and a big reason for that is that they've had teammates go 8K for them. So they're 8:44 with 18 laps to go, and that was a 75.7. So, you know, they're just looking at about 5 flat miles pretty consistently.
So we have the group up in the front, and now here's your look at the chase pack.
That's a second pacer, and we do have 2 sets of lights out on the track tonight. One set for 15:30, the other for 15:50. And leading that group is Birkut Taya Degefa. And behind her, you have a number of women together working, looking at each other's back, and they're going to get this done as a group.
Now, Degefa, I don't have a 10K PR according to my research. She is 30 years old from Ethiopia, who has quite a bit of experience, you know, racing here in Texas. Quite a bit of success as well, because she has hit the podium of the Houston Half and the Houston Marathon multiple times in the last, I believe, I tried going back all the way to 2017-ish, and so she's done it quite a couple times. She ran 2:22:40 at the Toronto Marathon in 2019, where she finished 2nd overall. Her half marathon personal best is 70:12.
With 17 laps to go, they come through in 10 flat. That was a 77. So now without a rabbit, there's a quick lull in the pace. You know, they have to work things out here for a little bit, and at some point, I'm sure Coco will take over and they'll start trading off some laps.
It is a long way to go for these two. Sharing is caring.
So despite the races earlier, it doesn't appear that they backed off at all. So, you know, they're trusting in their fitness, they're believing in it. I know that the athletes, you know, Kira out of DC, the greater DC area, it gets plenty humid there every summer, and Coco's been in Arizona training, so, you know, plenty heat, plenty hot, plenty of humidity there as well, I suppose. Not that much humidity, actually. Texas probably a little bit worse. But, you know, they're used to the heat. They're not necessarily up in the snow in Flagstaff, so a little bit of an advantage, hopefully.
If we go back to the other pace group to kind of see who else is in the mix there, behind Degefa, I believe it's Allie Kiefer now taking a little bit of the charge there. Allie Kiefer, very familiar with the Trials of Miles racing circuit. She's done a couple of the virtual races, and also she participated in the track meet that was held out in Jersey City, where she tried to go for, I believe it was the 5K, the 5K standard there, notched the PR, and then I think did the 10K at the meet that was held at Randall's Island. She's now being coached by
Liz McColgan.
Yep, that's right.
Who, you know, her daughter Eilish has been running exceptionally well for a long time.
She was considering this meet, actually.
Darn. We just missed it, but you know, she's in trusted hands. She's looking very strong. I actually did a podcast with her just recently in Elite Feats, and we were talking a little bit about the athlete story. And she's an athlete who has never been shy about sharing the ups and downs of her running career, and very, very relatable. I think a very strong role model for a lot of younger athletes, because she's one who talks about the necessary, difficult conversation of being a woman in sport.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're not following her, I really strongly encourage you to check out some of the content that she puts out and the discussions that she brings and is not afraid to have. Definitely a positive influence on the sport, and there's a reason why she always has tons of fans yelling her name everywhere that she goes.
Especially the big heads when at the New York City Marathon and races in the tri-state area. A lot of the Allie Kiefer fans come out for that one. And Andre Limon is up there as well, as now we've got Degefa, Kiefer, and Limon working together. Somewhere in that backpack is Lonnie Marchant as well. Lonnie Marchant wearing hip number 9, running for Under Armour.
Quick update.
Yeah.
3 hours ago.
Okay.
So our research was not wrong. Allie has actually began to work with Coach Stephen Haas.
Oh, really?
Out
The
of
dark sky
Flagstaff.
distance. Okay.
So that 3 hours ago, I think we were in this booth.
Yeah.
And so new update. So she, you know, obviously will have a ton of great training partners in that group in Flagstaff. we saw Weenie and Sharon earlier in the evening. So
I wanted to highlight Lonnie Marchand here for a little bit. She's in that backpack somewhere, and it's mainly because I wanted to show a little bit of love for our Canadian viewers. We've got a bunch of them out there. We had a couple Canadian victories earlier in the night, but Lonnie is a two-time national champion, and she won a bronze medal at the 2015 Pan Am Games in the 10K. Previously held the national record in the marathon by running 2:28 at the Scotiabank Toronto Waterfront Marathon. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is because, you know, we made a big deal about just kind of like the evolution of American women's distance running, but in Canada, I am having so much fun following the marathon up there because, you know, it was Lonnie Marchand's mark in when she set the Canadian record, it was a mark that had stood for 28 years. Then her mark gets taken down in late 2019 by Rachel Cliff, who ran 2:26.56. And then that was taken down by Melindy Elmore at the 2020 Houston Marathon, 2:24.50. So Canadian marathoning is on another level right now. I just wanted to show a little bit of love because it's something to watch and monitor. So if you haven't gotten your fix, Canadian Running, the podcast, the Shakeout podcast by Kate Van Buskirk, it does a great job of recapping all the news, so check that one out. I just want to show a little love to our Canadian friends.
Yeah, much appreciated, Chris. As they just hit 3 miles, Coco, 15:05. That was a 73 following the 74 previously. So she's picked it up. She's running about 5:01, 5:02 pace a mile on average right now, but is starting to dip under that as we slowly now come onto the 5K, and we'll get an idea of what sort of 10K time we may be looking at later, but she clearly has some life in her legs. 15:42.
What would you estimate the gap is right now, a little bit behind between her and Kira D'Amato?
I would call that 40 meters. And truly, it's not like Kira slowed down significantly at all. It's more just that she stayed in that 75 range, and Coco is winding it up. She's actually looking like this might be quicker than the last lap. And I know, just having been on the same track as her, she has worked out before. She does lots of tempos at 5-minute pace. So this is not that different for her than she does in workouts. And, you know, obviously conditions aren't perfect tonight, but it's not slowing her down.
Yeah.
As that was 16:19, and that was a 74.3. So it seems like this move is not just a one-time thing. This is relatively decisive here as Kira now just comes through with 12 laps to go. Still looking strong.
Well, hasn't Craig Engels told stories in the past before about how he's jumped into workouts with Coco and like it's hurt him?
Craig gets dropped by Coco regularly. And, you know, that might just be mental weakness on Craig's part because we did see a 13:36 5K out of him last night. So I would feel like he's capable of it, but Coco can definitely make him hurt because she is strong and she is not afraid to go for it. And, you know, now with still probably 14 minutes of racing left, she has left Kira behind and now is going to do it by herself.
The way Pete Julian's training group operates is just so fascinating to watch from afar because, you know, what you can tell from Instagram photos from time to time is you'll see, you know, Donovan Brazier and Eric Jenkins matching up in a workout, and then in the next photo you've got Jenkins and Craig, and then Craig is in a photo with Coco, and you're just wondering, it's like, how does this all work? And it's just like Pete Julian is just like is an orchestra director when it comes to
I think a conductor.
A conductor, and I'm not gonna take credit for that one. We discussed this on Clubhouse, and I believe Joey Barriatua from Tin Man Elite had reported seeing that and describing it as such when they were doing a training stint up in Arizona.
So that was a 74.1 for Coco. So still keeping it rolling, no signs of slowing down there. As that second pack that was previously together full of about 8 women is now spread out. DeGefa is the one of that Pack now sitting in 3rd place that was the one to open things up a little bit.
Is there anything that you can pick up a little bit off of like form here when like, I guess it is a longer race, but like the arm carriage, I just saw her kind of like, you know, shaking out her left arm. She's doing it right there. Is it just?
Yeah, you know, it's a long race, and Coco has a very unique arm carriage, and
Kind
she
of
holds quite
compact.
high up. And so at times, you know, you got to shake things out a little bit, get some new blood in as she comes across the line with 10 laps to go. That was a 75-0.
Kira D'Amato following in second.
Kira D'Amato now about 100 meters behind.
What's very funny is that I see like a different kind of intensity that Kira is bringing here. And of course, it's because it's a really tough 10K. But you're not seeing the smiling and waving that she had during the marathon project. This is a business trip now.
And now in 4th place is Emily Durgan, also out of Flagstaff, running for Under Armour. She is looking very, very strong, is slowly trying to reel in DeGeffa. It'd be a little bit easier to work together and not have to do this whole thing by yourself, as this is the tough part of the race here, and they're starting to show signs of weakness at various points in this race. You see the strain on many of the women's face, and it's understandable. We've seen this all night.
So a little bit on Emily Durgan. She's run 32:22:56 at the track meet last year. Like you mentioned, she runs for Dark Sky Distance and trains out in Flagstaff with Shayla Houlihan and Stephen Haas. Her most recent race, I believe, was a 69:47 half marathon PR out in Vegas.
So that was another 75-1 up front. So she's not slowing down and just clicking off that 5-minute pace. And for her, I would hope that she stays here for a few laps, stays composed until you can kind of see and visualize the finish line, and then wind it up and give it everything that you have. You can make up a lot of ground. If you're feeling good, you can pull off the negative split.
What I would give to be able to hold a 5-flat pace for one.
So you can't do 1 5-flat, and Coco's
No.
doing like 6.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, that really puts things in perspective. I wish we had a Chris hologram getting lapped.
You know what? We're trying new things on the broadcast. Maybe we'll see that at a future one, is the hologram.
That's the popular discussion point, is maybe having your average Joe out on the track in the 100 to really be able to visualize just how fast some of the sprinters are, and you know, in the 10K here with Coco, it'd be fun.
I've had that idea for so long. I think the stakes are a little bit too high for me to jump on the track at a meet like this, but you know, I'm also kind of you know, once again, as you see there, this race is brought to you by ElliptiGo. Major props to them for their support that they throw into the sport. But one thing I kind of wanted to highlight, Kyle, and I was wondering, is do you think that you can take some things mentally from this race where it's just like, you know, how the humid the conditions are, and like, yes, when we highlighted Emily Durgan and how she's slowly making her way to move into position number 3, you can think of this race later on at an occasion, something like the Olympic trials, where it's going to be hot, it's going to be humid, and yes, you're going to have some people all the way up in the front, but people are making progress.
Yeah, you know, and that's something, it's very easy to think that, you know, that top slot is all that matters, but later in the year, it's about that top 3. And so being able to still race when you're out of contention for the win is an important quality that, when you consider some of the paths that these ladies took to become professional athletes, you know, you're kind of used to winning, and now you're facing the best of the best, and there takes a little bit of a mental adjustment to get there. And that was a 73.9 for Coco. So she's showing no signs of slowing down. She's looking good. And Chris, we'd be remiss not to mention Katrina Coogan making her 10K debut tonight. You know, she's coached by her father and Olympian Mark Coogan, and she seems to be doing pretty well here. I believe she is in 5th or 6th place right now, and looks very poised and ready to hopefully close hard here.
Yeah, so Katrina Coogan, this is her 10K debut. She ran 15:14 for the 5K at the Adrian Martinez Classic in 2019. She was 6th at the 2-mile at Ocean Breeze in Staten Island 2 weeks ago, where she ran 9:27. 9:27 is faster than Ella Purrier ran in 2019. So we see, or 2020, and we've seen what a breakout can look like a year later. So just someone to keep an eye on is Katrina Coogan finally coming into her own, maybe in that 5K, 10K range.
You know, she has that sort of effortless stride that only genetics can give you. She's a beautiful runner to watch, really smooth, and I think over the course of a 10K, that's going to make a very nice, you know, it's the effortlessness that, you know, rather than doing it for just 4.5 minutes, the opportunity to do it for 32, it adds up. It's all about running economy. And just to check back in on Coco, that was a 74.9. So 24 minutes on the clock, and Coco looks good still. You know, the arm carriage is high and continues to be shaken out. You know, it's a lot of running, and we cannot emphasize enough how impressive it is that she's doing this, as we are both here in the booth sweating profusely, doing nothing at all but sitting here talking about track and field, let alone being down there doing it ourselves.
So what I was also kind of wondering was, for the people wondering at home, so if Coco decides to pursue possibly doing the 10K at the Olympics, what did it take to medal at Worlds? In 2019 at Doha, the last World Championships that we had, 3rd place was Agnes Jabet-Turop, who ran 30:25. Now, obviously, we're not going to see anything that fast here today, but that's just what the bronze medalist won. To win gold, 30:17.62 by Stefan Hassan, who trains with Coco from time to time.
I do just quickly want to say that she just came through 5 miles in 25:01. So, you know, we were talking last night in the Olympic development 10K when I believe they came through in 26:20. I was saying that would make a lot of men's D1 conference teams. 25:01 is making virtually every conference team out there. So Coco is showing many college boys out there how it's done right now. I would be interested to see what Coco's plans are for the Olympics this year. You know, there's obviously unbelievable field in the 5K, and you just look around the United States and you see some potential medalists in Shelby Houlihan, and the 1500 speed that they have that would be obviously present on the track come Tokyo. Maybe the 10K is an opportunity for an aerobic beast like Coco to not have to rely on just the last 100, as that was a 73.2. She's showing that she has no problem winding it up a long ways out. And, you know, Coco can close, obviously, but she has always been one who takes it from the gun and makes people hurt early.
So we want to talk about Coco's range. She's run 1:59.69 for the 800.
I did not know that. That's incredible.
She's broken 2 in the 1500. She's broken 4. She's run 3:58.92. So sub 2, sub 4 for the 5K, sub 15 because she's run 14:26. Now for What do you think the mark should be to complete like the most impressive range from?
Well, the thing for me is like, it's one thing when you're like Kipchoge and you've had a very long career, one that started as a middle distance runner and eventually has led to great marathoning. It's another when you're Coco, a young athlete who's doing everything all at once within a couple seasons of each other. That's difficult, and you know, generally you would think that the training for an 800 and 10K would be so different, but apparently, whatever Coco's doing, she can do it all as she approaches 3 laps to go in 27:26, and that was a 73 flat.
Yeah, I mean, the range at this age, she is 24 years old and 10 days.
So she's looking to be well under that Olympic qualifying time of 31:25. 5 flat pace is 31:15, if my quick math is correct, and she's been running 5 flat pace, and now, or she's been averaging 5 flat pace and now is running consistently under that 75-second mark.
Do you want to know what Coco's top 10 5Ks average out to?
Please tell me.
Her top 10 5Ks, so obviously her PR is 14:26. Her 10th fastest 5K is 15:16. So she's got an average, her 10 best 5Ks average out to 14:50.
That's amazing. And on the screen, we just saw our athlete from ASICS, McKenna Morley, 32:28 personal best. She's just ahead of Andrea Limon. She's training out of Bozeman, Montana. She's just 24 years old. And last year, she ran 32:49 for a 10K at the Sunset Tour, but she also has a 72 half to her name.
Yeah, and so, I mean, before that Sunset Tour meet, obviously big break due to the pandemic, lots of training. Before that, so one of the last races she did on the track was a 15:26 indoors in Boston. It's the same race where she finished behind Jenny Simpson and Danny Jones. So 3 buffs.
So it does look, as we look across the track, they're very spread out. It doesn't appear to be just as many athletes as we started out with. So similar to the men's race, I think we've had a few dropouts.
And now that's what I call social distancing.
I had 35 points at 200.
Nice. So Coco continues to wind it up. She looks fantastic. A dominating performance for her as she is now looking to actually lap 2nd and 3rd place. She's coming up on both DeGeffa, who's in 3rd place, and Keira D'Amato, who's in 2nd.
Oh, wow. I didn't see that this was about to happen.
Yeah, it definitely puts things in perspective here. Coco comes through with 1 lap to go in 29:52. That was a 71.9.
Wow.
There's a chance we see her get under 31 here.
I'm going to scramble right now to try and find the German
So
national record.
Elise Cranny
or at least the German
ran
top 10.
30:47 at their time trial a week ago. But now Coco has the opportunity to catch the bodies in front of her. Some targets on the back, something to go after. As she approaches 200 meters, the clock reads 30:27. Coco is past 3rd place as she approaches Keira D'Amato, who is running a very strong race. She's held her composure despite the heat.
The German national record is 31:03.
So it's going to be close with 100 meters to go. 30:45. Coco, she's got an opportunity here to get under the German national record and dip under 31. Her stride has gone very, very long. She's trying to get every single inch out of herself, and she's going to do it 31:01, a new German national record.
Look at that.
An incredible performance as our photographers scramble out of the way to allow Keira to finish up her race as DeGeffa is chasing her down. Emily Durgan, I believe, is in 4th place. She is approaching the final lap in 31:24, so she's having a great race herself.
And she did it solo.
If we can get eyes on our 2nd and 3rd place runners on the back straightaway, we have Keira D'Amato and DeGeffa now approaching the 200-meter mark.
This could be a duel.
31:41. DeGeffa does look like she's got a quicker cadence than Keira, but Keira does have plenty of life in her. I'm not even sure if she knows that someone is coming up behind her. She swings into lane 2 with 100 meters left to pass an athlete, and Keira looks like she's got some life left in her and is going to be able to hold on for 2nd place here. A very, very strong effort for her tonight. We cannot articulate enough how humid it is. So for her to still come out here, run 32:16, get that Olympic trials qualifying time out of the way. Maybe not the night that we originally envisioned time-wise a week ago, but given what we're dealing with, still very, very strong as Emily Durgan now powers home. She's going to be just outside that Olympic trials qualifying window. 32:41.
A little bit off of her PR of 32:22, but really strong running in the conditions.
That's 32:41 for Durgan.
And there is McKenna Morley finishing up her race tonight. it's going to be outside of her personal best as well. But, you know, I think for these athletes to be able to take some solace in the fact that everyone had, you know, the same conditions to deal with. Everyone was off maybe their original intentions of just how fast they're hoping to run tonight. And I think everyone's ego will still go home very much intact despite the slightly slower times than we hoped for. But it's a long season. It's only February.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I was just thinking, it's like, how often do you get to get that one 10K rest buster before maybe you try and give it another shot around late April, early May?
Yeah, you know, I
That's
think
usually when like meets like the Penn relays, Peyton Jordan come onto the schedule. But again, lots of question marks. We have to wait and see what opportunities there are going to be.
And we had seen Diane Curry, the 2:27 marathoner, finish up. Again, probably not the race that she wanted to tonight, but a lot of these athletes are now going to take their time to recover and come back strong, find the next opportunity that is out there, and go for it once again.
Yeah, so there you have it. There's Constance Klosterhoffen, 31:01, the German national record. Kira D'Amato, 32:16. Kira D'Amato had tweeted out that the D'Amato family record was 31:50. Unfortunately, that one stays safe.
I have a feeling that won't stand for very long, though. I think she'll be back. All right, so Chris, as we come to our final, I guess, our final opportunity tonight to speak to our fans watching at home, what is our major takeaway after 2 days of some really fun racing?
It was a little bit more humid than we had expected. Maybe we didn't get as many Olympic trials qualifiers as we wanted, but you know what? I think a lot of the athletes who, you know, some of them chipped away with personal bests, are coming away with their heads held high. I was able to get a race in. It's February. It's the outdoor season now. Oddly enough, you know, we're living in very weird times. I'm going to take this race and build off of it, and you know, it's a good jumping point. The foundation has been built for you know, a successful spring.
So I believe we have our race winner down with Emma on the track. Coco, our victor tonight. Emma, how's she
German
feeling?
national record.
31:01, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I feel a bit on a different planet. I still cannot believe I'm here in Texas, and yeah, I'm very happy and overwhelmed.
Were you thinking that you were gonna break the German national record tonight?
No, honestly, I was a bit afraid that I'm falling up the pace and so many laps. I was thinking if I maybe get hungry on the way. Yeah, and so I'm just very happy.
Yeah, you're running alone for the majority of that, like 75%. What are you thinking about? What's going through your head?
It actually felt pretty nice, just the wind was a bit bothering. Yeah, I was listening to the music, and I hope they put some faster music on. Yeah, it was nice. It hadn't felt like a COVID meet. It was nearly the same, and yeah, I'm very thankful for this opportunity, and yeah.
Well, that's awesome. What is next for you?
I don't know. I think it was the first step into the summer season, and now I will go back to Portland, and then we'll start the next training block, and hopefully some races in the early season to get the fast legs back, and then yeah, I'm very excited for the summer.
Yeah, what is the goal for the year?
Last year I learned just to think step by step, so I just want to run very fast and as fast as possible, and hopefully can show my best in Tokyo in the Olympics.
Well, I'm sure everyone's going to be excited to watch how your year goes. Awesome job tonight. Great job.
Thank you very much.
Awesome job. Nice to see you. Yeah, you killed it out there.
All right. All right.
We are here with the birthday boy.
The birthday boy is in the house. So we are joined by meet director Dave Alfano. Dave, I guess, like, what are your takeaways?
Yeah, first off, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Give it up for Dave in the chat, the YouTube chat. This wouldn't have been possible without him. Right here.
There. Ah, there I am. There I am. No, a lot of work to go into this thing. You learn a lot every time you do these. A little bit humid tonight. Tough for some of the 5K and 10Ks, but to end this meet with a national record and such a great performance like that, unbelievable. I'll be celebrating myself tonight.
Yeah, I'd say you deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to probably have to catch up on a lot of sleep. Lots of phone calls you've been fielding and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, kind of to share with, I guess, the viewers kind of like how Trials of Miles came about, and I guess like what is the jump off point after this? People really seem to have enjoyed. We surpassed, what was it, 11, 12,000 people on watching here tonight. So like where do we go from here?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we started with some virtual races. COVID started, and we just wanted to give people an opportunity to compete when they couldn't actually compete together. Put on a few meets in New York City toward the end of the year. And, you know, with Texas having decent weather in February, we thought, you know, let's do something down here. We don't have distance meets in Texas. As you can see, we shattered soil records tonight. We want to keep doing these. We have some stuff on the calendar that we're excited to announce for May. We have 2 set up, and we'll announce that soon. And we want to have fun with this. We want to make it fun for the viewers. We want to do track a little bit differently. We think that for years we've kind of gotten in this lull where we've done things the same way. And you know, from this telecast with great commentators like you, with great camera angles, it can be done. It takes a little bit of work, but we're excited to continue pushing this sport forward, and we're really excited to be a part of it, and we hope we can continue to host events like this.
I think a large part of obviously being able to do this is the investment on your part financially, which is made possible by some of these sponsors stepping up. Do you want to speak about that?
Yeah, sure. We've been unbelievably fortunate, as you've probably heard throughout the telecast, of different sponsors taking races to make this event successful. I'll be honest, when we decided to do this event, we weren't thinking about making money. We were thinking about putting on an awesome event. If we lost a few bucks, like it looks like we will, who cares? It seems like everyone had a really good time with this, and I'm sure when we do the next event, hopefully we can continue to get top talent. Hopefully sponsors believe in what we're doing. We think that we can do this even better next time. We learned a lot. I learned a lot from doing this, and yeah, we want to be a part of the sport. We want to grow it and continue to do meets like this.
That's great. So where can everyone follow along if they want to see what's coming up next and what you have brewing in your mind?
For sure. Well, our website, trialsofmilesracing.com, we'll have a schedule sometime, hopefully in the next 7 to 10 days, of all our events going through to the summer. We're also very active on Instagram, Trials of Miles Racing. You can follow us there. We post a lot of updates on what's coming up. And I think after some of the recent calls I've been getting, I think we need to assemble a little mailing list so people know what's going on. I mean, we're just growing so fast, and it's been really fun. And you know, I appreciate everyone who's been following along. And
yeah, I'm sure you're getting the Dave chant going on the YouTube chat right there.
Oh, nobody knows who I am. Nobody. I'm a washed up old runner.
Yeah, the beautiful thing too is that people have been the Trials of Miles, like, yes, these last few days have been great for professionals. And you know, earlier in the afternoon, people can watch on Instagram. We had some locals and some sub-elite racing, but even like you guys present the opportunity for a little bit of virtual racing, and like we had the segment chasing all throughout New York and San Francisco. So if people keep their eyes on it, there's something for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing like going to the Bridle Path in Central Park and trying to beat the top times currently held by Brendan Martin. You can see that on our website, trialsofmilesracing.com. But no, it's fun. The virtual racing, pinning people against each other on different segments or different distances. People responded really well to it, and during the pandemic when everything was shut down, we were looking to create something that got people out the door and kept people motivated to train. And yeah, it's worked out really well.
Well, Dave, I do just want to say thank you to you, and also Cooper, who couldn't be here tonight due to a beautiful new baby at home.
Yeah, okay, excuse to not be here, but
and you know, while she wasn't in the booth, super grateful to have Emma with us, doing a great job with the interviews down with the athletes, and you know, having that mobility for us was huge, and it was a great opportunity then to meet the athletes. And I was really impressed by the production team. The drone was incredible.
Mark, the drone operator, who you know we got to speak to right beforehand, he said he was loving seeing what the chat and the reaction has been to things. So yeah, I mean, all around great 2 days of action, and wouldn't have been possible without you and Cooper really believing in providing this opportunity for athletes. So thank you.
So I guess with that, we thank all the athletes for coming and participating in this race, trusting the Trials of Miles team and CITIUS Mag to be able to put on a good race for them, and I'm excited to see them continue. You know, for those fans of the sport out there wondering, how can I continue to follow along? Next weekend, Sound Running is putting on a race in California, so hopefully those in the chat here watching can follow along there. We want to push the sport forward from every angle and create more opportunities together for the athletes, so that way we can, get get the most competitive races out there and really a strong build into Tokyo.
Yeah, so thanks to everyone for watching. On that note, follow Trials of Miles Racing, follow CITIUS Mag, follow Kyle Merber, follow me, Chris Chavez. So I hope you guys enjoyed the 2 days of action, and we'll see you guys next time.
What's up, YouTube?
Thanks for watching.
I missed.